where are you quarantined right now?
I'm in my apartment in Marina Del Rey, California.
Wow, that's that's a nice place to be stuck.
Yeah, I'm like close by the water. So I actually went out last night and I saw, have you heard of like the blue wave like phenomenon that's happening?
I've been seeing photos. I'm really jealous that I'm not able to capture that and swim in the ocean right now.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to go in the ocean. I don't know what's happening in there, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, I think it's pretty harmless. But anyway, so were you on a job or prepping for anything before COVID hit?
I did a small little job, like a travel job, in Florida. It's kind of this like branded piece, where we had these like NFL players kind of, being sponsored by, Vertiball. It's kind of like a athletic piece of equipment, and they were just doing like 30-second and like 60-second like spots for them.
Mm,
So a lot of like workout stuff, and it was with the same producer from, Rolling with the Rookies that we're going to talk about. So I was doing that, and I didn't want to fly because that was literally like the week before they shut like the whole country down, and I was like so scared.
yeah, I know. I was actually in LA. We were doing pre-lighting for a month-long project, and halfway through pre-light, after lunch, they're like, "All right, everyone, go home. We don't know what's gonna happen, but everything's pushed." So
Yeah.
then a couple days later, I flew back to New York, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't have anything like in prep right now. I had like three projects in color. One like short film that is still in color right now. So it's kind of been a little bit of a pain, just like, them sending me like the film and then me having like write notes, and then kind of going back and forth. Like I'd much rather be in the suite, with the colorist. But it is what it is.
Have
And
you
I
been
have
like screen share, or how do you do it?
he'll send like MOV files just like over Vimeo, and I'll just watch those. And then if it's like a small adjustment, he'll send TIFF images. Or if I want to see like different looks or like specific like little tweaks, he'll just send the images over.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah, I recently was on a Zoom call with a director doing some basic like color tweaks. It was really convenient. It's not super accurate, but it gets you in the ballpark.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like these small discrepancies between like the TIFF images and then like the MOV, and like the colors like just I'll point them out like all the time, and then he'll say, yeah, like there is like a slight little thing, like I promise you I'm not like, going rogue on you, like I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, the thing I hate is when you export it and then you put on Vimeo, it looks different. Or then when it's, like the different versions of it always slightly changes. And you never know what the final is going to be on. It can be on your phone, it can be on your TV, a theater. So, like, it's really hard to know, like, should you lift the blacks for this version? Or you almost need to have a different colored version for each platform you're going to use.
Yeah, and I think Apple like lifts the blacks just automatically, like on a MacBook or like a phone. I've noticed. So annoying.
Yeah, in Resolve, there's a setting for if you're going to use Apple for coloring. You can like check that off. I have a calibrated monitor, but no one's going to watch on a calibrated monitor. So you gotta like color on that, and then play it on your iPad, your phone. I play it on as many things as possible, and if it looks consistent across the board as much as possible, then that's what I go with.
For sure.
Hmm. So, do you think? What do you think about how COVID is hitting the industry? Like, how are things going to change for us as filmmakers?
I mean, I feel like there's going to be smaller crews, in the very near future when we go back.
Hmm.
I don't think G&E teams are going to be as big as they once were. And it's really a matter of like, for the bigger shows, right? Like I work on like, smaller like indie features, shorts and like smaller projects. So, I usually only have like a team of like 3 and 3, So for that, it might not be much of a problem, but I think wearing masks definitely for sure. Hopefully they can get like the testing like underway so they can actually like test people and then get those results quickly. Because that's what would make me feel like the safest, like having everyone get tested, you're working with people that, are tested negative. But yeah, I'm concerned about like the actors, right? Because like they can't wear a mask and like gloves or anything when they're, acting. And then even like intimate scenes, right? Like kissing scenes. Like are we just not gonna have that? Like
Yeah, I was reading an article about that, and they're gonna have to do some like trickery where they're, shoot the one actor this way and then the actor this way, and they're like not even in the same room. I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna work.
I know. I just saw like an article that came out where someone proposed more time in color correction to account for like the lighting that's not going to be as good because you have like a small G&E team. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work that way. Like like yeah, you can like tweak some things in color, but like you can't make, the lighting much better.
Yeah. I was also reading about how craft services aren't going to be the same, which I was kind of upset about. That's like everyone just grabbing whatever they want. It's pretty dirty if you think about it on some sets. So that's probably a benefit that's going to come from this.
Yeah. I could probably lay off the craft services a little bit. I'm the one that always goes for like, I tell my AC like, oh, bring me chips, bring me some cookies. So if I'm not having that, it's probably for the best.
Yeah, it's true. Lose a little weight.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go through your work, and then you can kind of touch base on like a lot of the questions I have. But just to start off, because this is a big question about prep, and you're gonna get into like overheads and stuff like that. But just in general, like if a director comes to you and they're like, "We want to hire you for a producer. This is the script. Um, we're shooting in 2 weeks. Go." Like what's the process? What do you do?
Yeah, so first off, I'll just read the script through once and I'll try not to like think of like shots per se. Things are always going to come into my head, but I just like read it through, get the story, get like the characters, and then I'll read it through a second time again. And then usually on like the third time reading it is when I'll just start making like little notes. And I use this app called Scriptation, where you can like import your script, and then I use my iPad and I'll just like scribble things on it. And what's cool about that app is like when you get different versions of the script sent to you, you can like transfer your notes over. It'll just like do it, and it's actually pretty accurate. And then I'll just from the notes, I'll just like start pulling together reference images. And I just have everything in my Google Drive because that way I can, whether I'm on my laptop, my iMac, my iPad, wherever I am, I just have access to it. And I use Shot Deck for that. So
Yeah,
of that, right? Lawrence Shear, ASC.
yeah.
Um,
I just found out about it recently. I've used it on a couple projects.
yeah. So I'll just like save like little folders there. And then I'll share those with the director. Um, and then usually like the director will bring images to me and we'll talk about it and we'll kind of like share, and usually we're for the most part like on the same page about the imagery. And then I'll go even further and I'll break it down into like subcategories of like how I want the exposure to be, like if it's a darker project, like is it going to be a little underexposed? I'll break it down into shape of light. I'll do like composition, like breakdowns.
You're just like, because I use Scriptation too. I love it, especially for what you said with new drafts. Because when you work on a project, constantly you're getting new new scripts. And in the past, when I've written, analog, like just written on the script, and then we get a new script, all those notes are lost. And I feel like it wasn't a waste of time, because when you write on the script, at least for me, it like you kind of remember it more, or not forever, but you know, if it's important, you're going to remember it. But yeah, the scriptation makes it so it's pretty much permanently there. So are you
Yeah.
writing the notes? Are you like hand drawing it with like a stylist, or like,
Yeah, just the Apple Pencil.
yeah,
And that's, yeah, I bought an iPad like just a couple months ago, like specifically like for that reason. Because I would always print out scripts before. And I was like, okay, like this is getting a little bit ridiculous, you know, because then the new version comes in, I got printed out again, and I'm like, this isn't gonna work. And then
yeah.
like,
There's still people that love, like, they have to have the printed out version, and that's just insane to me, because it's so much paper waste. But not only that, it's just not logistically worth it. It's just, it's thick, like scripts change, things change. You got new pages every day when you're on a project sometimes. um, People keep asking what the software is. It's scriptation. There's a free version, or not, there's a free and a paid, or no,
yeah,
subscription based. It's subscription based, or you can pay like a fee for like the free, not free, but like the basic um, program. So you can do pretty much everything. The subscription one, the only benefit is you can share it with, I think, your other devices and other people. Um, you can also add, you can make your own sides every day, which I think would be cool as a DP or anyone on the crew, because
mm-hmm.
then you could have your notes that you previously made in your sides, because that's kind of been a problem for me, where I'm on set and I have the sides of the day, but none of my notes are in it. So it's like, okay, what do I use? Do I use, like, I don't know what you do on set, but I don't know what to look at, or if I should just like not look at anything and just remember everything and just and work that way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really have a set way of doing it yet.
What
But
I do is, or I try and do like the night before, I'll just review like the scenes that we're gonna shoot the next day, and I just try and have it like all in my head. It's like sometimes it's a lot to remember, but and sometimes like I'll get home, like if I'm on a feature, I'll get home like after like a 14-hour day, and it's like I just want to go to sleep. But no, like I'll open up, you know, but by then it's like I'm not looking at scriptation necessarily. I'm actually looking at like a Word document that I made on Google Drive. And I call it like my DP Bible. I had like another DP friend of mine that he would do this, and he turned me on to it. And I just have I start with like the tech specs of like the camera, and I put all that info in there down to like what filters like we're going to be using, like the lenses, like all that. And then I just break it down scene by scene. And I'll put the script pages first, and that'll have my notes on it from scriptation. And then I'll have like the reference images in there. And then I'll have overheads if I did overheads. And then any other like little notes that I have for like the grip team, or, you know, hey, we're doing like this jib shot, you know, and even some like schedule stuff too. Like, okay, I know we have like 2 hours to do this. And then I'll share that with my crew too.
cool. So yeah, shot deck is great. It's a good way of, if people don't know, it's in the beta version right now, but it's really cool because they use classic movies and references filmmakers should know. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very like, it's not just random like Google images, and it's also very organized, where you can make a folder for each project, for each scene. Um, what else do I like? It's pretty easy to use. It also has a search function where you can search like uh, day interior, or you can do like a bunch of filters like warm, light, day, like all the types of things you're looking for, and it'll populate all, you know, the movies and shit. No, it's just movies, references for that, and so that way you're not just Googling it. You're getting from a source that's shared among other filmmakers. So
Hmm.
I love it. Um, right now it's free, but I'm sure they're going to start charging eventually when more people know about it. Uh,
Yeah.
um, so, so you talked about Shot Deck. What other references do you do? Do you just like watch movies or shows and like pull from that, or
Yeah, it's usually the director that'll like say, "Oh, this is a great movie to watch, for reference," and then I'll watch it. I'm more about like not I'm more about like pulling just like images, like for lighting like references and like composition more so than like saying like, oh, like this movie like reflects that. I mean, there's some like I guess for like camera movement, like if I can remember like a film or like a show, where it has like the camera movement that we want to do. But I have like kind of a bad memory, so it's hard for me to like, like
oh,
remember like all these films like, oh, they did this, it'd be cool, like we're trying to do something similar. It's much easier for me to like go online and like find like just images that
yeah,
reflect the look that we want to get.
yeah? And also, you don't want it too specific because then you're kind of taking the artistic touch from you and the collaborators. Like, you just want kind of like a little bit of a reference. You don't want to do it exactly the same.
Yeah, you
Um,
don't want to copy anyone. Yeah.
what kind of shows and movies are you into right now?
Oh God. I was watching Killing Eve. That's something that I started. Um, what else? Like all like the shitty stuff is like coming to me right now, like the Tiger King and whatever. Oh, I just
Use
started
that as
watching.
a
I just started watching Hollywood on Netflix. That's really good. Looks really good. Um, I don't know. I just watched Underwater with Kristen Stewart.
Mhm.
It wasn't the best. It looked
Yeah,
good.
yeah, we all have a lot of free time to like watch these shows we didn't get to watch or the new ones. I'm catching up on Handmaid's Tale, um,
Oh,
which
yeah.
you gotta see it. It's like it's hard to watch because of the subject, but just the filmmaking from like everything from wardrobe to the cinematography to the storytelling is it's amazing. The way they like you'll see, but they'll just like slow things down and the music goes with it and it's just it's just great. Um, but yeah, it took me a long time to watch it. One because I didn't have Hulu, but two, yeah, before COVID, I was busy, so I didn't have as much time. So
Yeah. No, I think I've only seen like season one and I liked it, but for some reason I kind of fell off of it. I'll have to get back into it.
yeah, another one is Euphoria. Have you seen that at all?
Yeah, yeah. They just did Marcel Rev, the DP, did a Light Gear talk
Mm,
about that.
they use a lot like it.
Not so much.
Mm.
Not yeah. Um, but yeah, that's like one of the I think that's the best looking like TV show ever.
Yeah, they you could tell they spend a lot of time on the visual style where it's not about hosing down the scene with a bunch of cameras. Like it's either they're going to do it the way they want, or they're not going to make it, which is really cool, and I respect that. I mean, most filmmakers want that, but a lot of times you get sucked into like making your day and the budget and all those things we have to worry about.
Yeah. No, so he said that they got like 20 to 30 days to shoot each episode. And I was like, I want that.
Yeah, it's like that's like a good feature per episode. But yeah, it's a great reference to. I mean, most of the narrative stuff I shoot doesn't have that much color and craziness with the camera moves, but
Yeah.
it's great to pull from if you have like some sort of dream sequence or you're doing a music video, or I don't know. It just shows you what you can do, and don't be so scared to, you know, try things. Like, you can, if you want to do a long oneer for the whole intro of the shows, you should do it.
Yeah, if you have the time, yeah.
But yeah, that's, I guess, I mean, I can kind of guess what you're going to say, but on the projects you work on, are you kind of, do you feel like you're rushed a lot of the time and you're just trying to make your day, or do you feel like it's a good balance?
I feel like for the most part, there's a pretty good balance. I think the features, particularly that I work on, I think those are more rushed. Um, just because like they're like 15-day shoots, for like, an hour and a half movie. So that's pretty tough. But no, I think for the most part, yeah, like we're able to get like creative and, I think it's all about if my like gaffer and key know like from, the overheads that I did or from my lookbook, my DP Bible, if they know what we're trying to accomplish and they know where I'm going with each scene, that just saves time on the day, right? One thing I do want to get better at though is blocking with the director like ahead of time in pre-pro, because a lot of times like we'll see the location, we know what the scene is, and the director will kind of just say like, okay, yeah, like he's gonna be over there, she'll be over there, whatever. But I don't know like the movement exactly, like that's figured out on the day. But if I knew that, then I could plan even more and save even more time on set. um
Because sometimes, because you would prefer to block with your, with an overhead before you get on set, but a lot of times you're not getting that.
Yeah, a lot of times I'm not really getting that, just because the the director like kind of wants to figure it out like on the day, or sometimes it really is a time thing with them too, because sometimes they're only rehearsing with the actors more so for like a short or something, a shorter project. They're only rehearsing the day before, like 2 days before the project, so like they don't
Yeah.
even know. And at that point, I can't we can't really plan for that. It's just going to happen on the day.
Yeah. And a lot of the directors you work with, do you find that it's a mix of like some directors are more into working with the actors and kind of relying you on the blocking, and then sometimes the director is way more into like the camera angle and the blocking, or is it?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think most directors that I work with are more focused on like the actors, and like, the story and the script. And most of them are like the writer director of the project too. And they kind of like rely on me a little bit more heavily for the visuals, which I don't mind, Um, I think they really value my input like in that way. And then I would say it's probably only about like 20 to 30% of the directors that are like really involved with the look and like the lighting. And even out of that, like a lot of them, we don't go into lighting that much. If they are going to really go into something, it's more about like color and like shot wise and like composition,
Yeah.
more than anything.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I rarely have a director talk about lighting, but a lot of times they're they're bigger with camera angles and movement, which is great because I feel like it's a lot of their vision, and then we're just helping achieve that vision and collaborating. But I don't like when a director gives you like complete freedom and doesn't have like any voice, because then I feel like I could just direct. Except I don't want to deal with the actors, and that's not what I'm good at. I don't know how to give good feedback to an actor and that kind of stuff. I know if it's good or not, but I'm that's not what I'm trained to do. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like it's like if you're not gonna collaborate, we just shouldn't be doing this. But that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I usually even with like first time directors, and I've worked with a lot of first time directors, like even they have they know where they're going with it, and like that's kind of all I need, and I can take that and like, kind of run with it. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. I like directors that also can make like decisive decisions, not only in pre-production, but like on the day, because that's when it really matters. And directors who like know when we, nailed a move. Because I operate a lot of like the stuff that I do as well. So if I'm operating, I'm so focused on that and like so many other things. And if I'm like, oh, there was like a little bump, like there, and I go back to the director, and they're like, what? Like, it was a great, like, that doesn't even matter, like, we got it, like, let's move on. And that's a big trust thing too, that I think like a DP and director deal with, when DP is operating, right? Because it's like, I have to trust them. They're seeing it, there's no time for me to watch playback. They say we're moving on, and it's like, okay, I gotta let that go. If there was a little mistake, or we got it on the second to the last take, I have to trust that they know that, we got it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like everyone's different, and you work with crews differently. And I feel like if I'm working with a director that maybe isn't looking for the technical stuff, which they really shouldn't be looking at, I'll tell someone like my AC if I'm operating, let me know if you had any issues with the focus or if you saw anything weird, like just kind of be my eyes on this because I'm doing too many things, which
Yeah.
it shouldn't be that way, but it's just good to remind people just to like, because they might have worked with a DP who they shouldn't have done this, but got upset because they didn't nail their mark. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not like that. If my AC misses his mark, I just want them to tell me so we can do it again. I hate when they don't say anything and then like we move on and then they tell me after, and then I'm like, I have to go to the director and be like, I'm so sorry that one was soft, and then we have to. Then they're like, no, we're not doing it again. But if they just told me, you know, right from the beginning, it wouldn't have been a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel myself turning to my first a lot when like the director's like, okay, yeah, we've got it, I'll turn to them and I'll say, how did you feel? And if they're like, yeah, no, it was good, I'm like, great, moving on.
So, do you work with a lot of the same crew? Because I know you travel. Do you bring them with you? It probably depends on budget, but what's kind of your experience with that?
Yeah, no, I always work with the same crew, or try to. I kind of have this like, list in my head of, probably like my top three people like for every position. But yeah, I work with like the same gaffer a lot. Um, and then yeah, my first ACs, and then yeah, if we're traveling, it definitely depends on the budget. Like the Rolling with the Rookies job, like that was a big budget, so um, I got to bring on my first. The gaffer was already hired before me because he was on the first two seasons, which I was not. And then the second AC was also brought on before me because they were kind of left over. Um, but yeah, it's I think it's definitely good to have that like collaborative, like, like working with the same people, like they know like what you like, especially like a gaffer and key, like they know like what units I like, what diffusion.
Yeah.
I could literally say to my gaffer, like, I want this like super soft, and he'll know exactly what that means. I don't know how, but
Yeah, so you don't have to micromanage and be like, I want a M18 bouncing off, you know, grid, like full grid. And it's just, it just takes, it makes your job easier, but also you can focus on things that are more important where, the gaffer should know, how to make a light soft. There's a million ways of doing it.
yeah. Yeah, I was never like a DP that liked telling them like the exact unit and whatever. Like I talk more in terms of like quality,
Yeah.
of like the light, and like, big source, or small source or whatever, and just like like more so the feeling that you get from it. Um, and then they kind of just like, okay, yeah, like let me run this. They run the list by me, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I think that's good. You got it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely worked with a gaffer and crew that aren't as experienced, but they just have really good attitudes on set. And I've hired people like that because, on certain jobs where I know we have enough time and we're not doing anything crazy, where I just want people to smile on set and and the rest of the crew to get along with them. And I would take that over a super experienced crew member with a kind of not so good attitude.
Yeah, yeah, you want your friends like kind of on set. You
Yeah.
want to be able to have fun too, like usually it's a stressful environment. So if you have people it's makes it better.
So how did you start? As a cinematographer, did you go to film school? Like, how did you get into it?
Yeah, so I went to Loyola Marymount University Film School. I'm originally from Chicago, so I moved out of Chicago in 2011 to go to film school. And originally, I thought I wanted to be a writer and then eventually get into directing, because I'd always like write short stories like in high school and whatever. And it wasn't until my junior year at LMU that I kind of discovered cinematography. Like I didn't even really know like what a DP was, and I started shooting these small little like directing projects for directing class, and it was just on like a DSLR. Like most of the time, like no lighting. If it was like a couple of tweenies or whatever. And I liked it. And then I worked on set as like a first AC, and like gaffer and grip and everything. So I was learning from the DPs that were older than me and ahead of me in film school. And then I just like people let me, I was my close friends started letting me shoot their thesis films.
Hmm.
And then I just loved it. And I knew I was like all about the image. Like that was the one thing that um, that I liked when I was like watching a film. I was like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, yeah, similar to me. I think most DPs are. I think that's kind of like the balance of making a beautiful image, but telling a story. And I kind of wanted to get into that with you, like the visual language of telling a story and kind of the techniques that you like to use, which we'll get into when we look at your work. But um, but yeah, if there's anything you can think of, like certain tools you use or techniques that help tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, I always try and light, I think, like from the perspective of like the protagonist. Like so however they're feeling, whatever they're going through, I try and emulate that and like whatever, with like the camera angles.
Mm-hmm.
If they're feeling like kind of small, like I'll they'll be like smaller in the frame, or we'll do like a higher kind of angle like down on them to like kind of convey that. Maybe we'll go a little bit more like with a blue tone, a little moodier to also convey that with the lighting. Um, and even with like the times of the day, a lot of times it's obviously written in the script, whether this is like day or night, but sometimes that's it. And so I'll ask the director, say, hey, can this be at blue hour? And they're like, I don't see why not. And I'm like, because that would really help convey what the emotion that you're going for here. um Trying to think of like specific tools.
Yeah, I think once we look at your work, you'll mention them because I can see a lot of things that you're doing. But yeah, like maybe talk about lenses a little. Like, what do you do with lenses to portray certain emotions or feelings?
Yeah. I think I've recently like started using like wider lenses and getting like closer like to the actors rather than just using like a long lens. Because I think that's really, using like a 32 millimeters kind of like what, the eye like sees. So it really like kind of makes you feel like you're right there like with the character. So I've been doing that like more recently.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, you're in the space. There's like in their space and out of the space, and it's a completely different feeling. Yeah, 32 is actually my favorite lens. That's I've shot a lot of the projects I shoot. I'm like just on the 32 because you can do wides and close-ups with it, and it doesn't really distort. And yeah, it's a 50 to me is like it's pretty normal looking, and it's a little
Mm-hmm.
too tight. And 32 or 35 is just like right in the middle. Um,
Mm-hmm.
then I like the wider end, like a 20. Um, cool. So let's talk about. Uh, I actually want to show your reel, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And the quality's probably not going to be the best because of this setup, but we'll go with it.
No
So
worries.
let me cue this up. Okay. Just trying to frame it. Don't want to crop it. Okay, how's that?
Yeah. Looks
Okay.
good. I gotta credit Gilly Rudolph. He edited that together.
Gilly is a good friend. I think we talked about this at one point. Um, but yeah, Gilly, I went to film school with Gilly, undergrad. And yeah, he knows his stuff. He knows how to tell a story.
Yeah. Yeah, which is what I needed for my reel for sure. And he killed it with like the different music cues and everything.
Yeah, there's definitely emotion in it. The music goes with it. And it's not just like a cool song with um, cool visuals. There's like little mini scenes and sound effects, which makes it feel like you're watching a cinematic movie
Hmm.
um, that's telling a story. So you can tell, like, you can put together scenes and tell the story. But
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's the benefit of going with a editor to edit your reel, because most DPs, me included, just do your own reel, and you can see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So yeah, and also I wanted to mention in your reel you use it's kind of a mix. It's not just narrative. Did
Mm-hmm.
you do that? Did you do that on purpose, or what was the reason for that?
Yeah, yeah, I kind of like just gave Gilly a bunch of different stuff and I said like it'd be cool if we had like almost little sections. Like I'm mostly a narrative DP. That's what people kind of know me like for, but I also love kind of, doing branded work and music videos. So I said I'd like to include that. And I didn't think that I had like enough of work to have like separate reels yet. Um, so that's what he was able to kind of break down. Like there's like the car shots in there and like some music video shots, like just kind of at near the end, no more than like 20 seconds or whatever. But yeah, I definitely wanted to have like a whole like breadth of work to be showcased.
Yeah, it works really well. People are commenting they like it.
Yeah. What's up, Tina?
All right, so let's see some of your more in detail some of your work, and you can talk about whatever you want. Uh, okay.
Cool. So this is Other Side of the Box, which won the jury award for short horror film at the 2019 South by Southwest. Um, and basically, I'll say the log line. It's about this couple who receives a mysterious package from an old friend.
Cool. So I don't think the clip you play shows this. So what is this frame right here? What are we looking at?
So this is them, the couple that received the box, just looking into it. They just received it. They put it on their dining room table, and this is just how we got that kind of square frame. It's just a mat that was done in post.
Okay. Yeah, it was very clean, but it looks real. And then yeah, I don't know if you show any clips in the slideshow, but of the box and how, because it looks very matted. Like I don't know how you guys achieved that.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's basically just a cardboard box. But it is very clean, the edges and everything. And I guess I can say, yeah, when they first look into it, they just see black, like there's nothing. And how we achieved that was we just had Duve kind of in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was cleaned up in post as well. But yeah, it's kind of just like an endless like black abyss that you're kind of looking into.
Yeah, it's really cool. So that was just do, like there was no special effects.
Yeah, no, just Duve. And then like I said, they clean it up a little bit in post to just get it like really black and make
Yeah,
sure that there was no light hitting, because there was light still hitting like the Duve in some spots. We got it pretty close on set, but there was some work that needed to be done in post.
yeah, it didn't look VFX. It just looked perfect. So good job on your team on that.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So this is your first clip from the movie. There's a little meringue. I don't know how to fix it.
Well, that's okay. We'll just say don't pay attention to the moray.
All right, so this is from the same movie.
Sean? Long time, man. Good to see you.
Hey, Ben, this is a bad time.
No, I was just, no. Yeah, sorry, do you want to come in?
Yeah, sure, that'd be great, thanks. Your mom told me where you were at.
Oh. Oh.
This is a nice place.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Where are you at now?
Same place.
Oh, cool.
I'm really sorry everything went down before.
No, it's water under the bridge.
Is she here?
Oh no, she's at her parents' house right now. She's decorating.
Oh, great. Look, I just want to give you this.
Sean, can I get you a drink or something?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Are you okay?
Yeah, yes. Can you just do me a favor though?
Yeah, of course.
Can you open it?
Cool. So talk about that scene. And something I noticed is these low angles looking up. You can see the ceiling, and you also kept it pretty wide, kind of like what you were talking about earlier with a 32, and you're like in their space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Caleb Phillips, the director, and we wanted to shoot it at that low angle because it's kind of an awkward angle. You don't see that a lot, and the conversation's very awkward, which hopefully you kind of felt.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that played into that really well, and also it makes the box, you're at the eye level of the box, which is kind of, we wanted to draw attention to that more. So that was another reason.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And then we stayed wider just because this is there's only one short scene that is before this in the film. So it's early on, and we just felt like we needed to see the space and like be in the space. And kind of just let the characters play it out. We didn't want to be too close to them because we didn't feel like it was necessary. We didn't even film close-up shots in this. We just did those two shots because we knew that that's how we wanted it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the best way of telling the story how you want it visually is only giving the editor what you want, which is hard to do in a lot of projects if you're not on the same page with the rest of the production. If the producers want you to have 3 camera coverage on everything rolling and you don't give them that, there might be some conflict, but I think overall, if you're on the same page and you do it this way, because if you gave the editor a close up, they might have used it. But
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have that option, then this is what you're going to get, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
That way you have more control.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else about that scene?
I mean, I can talk just a little bit about like the lighting approach. You kind of saw it, in the wider shots there. So everything was just lit or made to look like it was lit by practicals. So we kind of had a bunch of practicals, mostly just on the near the walls. And then I love this kind of opening shot. It's really dark. Like the whole side of his face is dark. There's only a little bit of side light coming from the right. And then you've got the silhouette of the character that's outside, and it's just really like, I think it really sets the mood well.
Yeah, it also feels real. I think that's what I want to talk about a little. Your lighting, it never feels like you guys lit it. It just seems like the practicals, like you're saying. And if you lit from the front here, it just would have been artificial looking. And I also like how there's like more warmth in the movie in the beginning of the movie, and then it kind of changes, which we'll see in a second.
Yeah, I think I remember when we were setting up this shot, I think I had my gaffer have a light set up outside, and we kind of auditioned it, and we were thinking about using it, and then we just didn't. Because you're right, this just felt more real. It would be dark outside, all the lights are just on in the house. But yeah, the Caleb and I, we were kind of going for a David Fincher look on a budget. Gone Girl was a really big reference for this one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's clean, high contrast, and no
Yeah,
fill, which is great.
yeah. And I know we're not seeing this on the way that you're showing it, but all the practicals aren't that overexposed.
Oh yeah.
They're held
I
pretty
I don't know
well.
if I can fix that by like touching the screen. Yeah, it looks like your practicals are like right before clipping. They're like perfect.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
like
and Caleb actually colored this too. So he did a really great job of just really pulling out the yellows. Because when we shot it, we're using all tungsten light, and it was shot pretty warm. And then in post, he kind of just went more towards like the green spectrum and just did a fantastic job.
I think the highlights are they fixed now? Let's see. And what camera did you use? Was it a red?
Yeah, it was a red Epic Dragon. I think we shot in 6K and we framed for 4K. And then we used just some Zeiss Distagon lenses. So nothing fancy. Again, this was low budget. And then I think I had a Hollywood Black Magic, either eighth or quarter, in front of the lens at all times.
Do you tend to do that on most of your digital projects?
I do, yeah, just to like take that edge off. My favorite filter to use is actually pearlescent because I think it renders skin tones the best out of like all the diffusion kind of soft filters.
Yeah, I use a black frost, and
Oh yeah.
the only reason I use it is because I did a test for my thesis film with a bunch of filters and lenses, and I ended up liking that one for that project, and then I just bought it, and then so I got a quarter and a eighth, I believe, and I don't use them as much as I used to, but because I tend to shoot on the Alexa Mini a lot, and I feel like it's not as sharp. But yeah, it depends on the project. But yeah, I just always have that filter with me. So if I do want to get that edge off, then that's what I tend to use.
Yeah. My Steven, my gaffer on this, he's with us right now. And
Awesome.
lighting wise, we only had China balls. It was mostly China balls, a bunch of different sizes. I think we had a Fresnel, like a 650 or like a 300, that we would like bounce sometimes, but yeah, it's mostly China balls.
Wow. I like how your lighting here is like kind of coming like back 3/4, which is kind of like my standard lighting for if I'm just gonna light a face, that's kind of what I go for. That's like my goal. And it's always pretty hard because you have to like, the light's gonna be in the shot if it's in the perfect spot. So there's like that fine line where it's right on the edge. Is that kind of I feel like your work has a lot of that. Is that something you try to do?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it all depends on the project, of how much like wrap I want to get or whatnot. But I kind of definitely lean more towards the more contrasty look, so I do like that kind of, really sidey light a lot of the times. And yeah, just balancing that contrast. Usually like we'll have the light, could be at 100%, could be at like 75%. And then I'll throw ND in just so that, the whole other side of the face like either goes black or almost black or whatever. I don't use a ton of negative fill because I'm able to ride that contrast just with, the source light, being pretty bright. So
Do you try to shoot wide open for the most part, or it depends on the project?
yeah, I usually stick around more like a 2 or a 2.8. I don't shoot at like a 1.4 um, a lot because I feel like, especially when people are moving and it's like, going in and out of focus like ever so slightly, like that kind of bothers me. So I'll usually stay a little bit above wide open, more like a 2.8.
Yeah. So your AC's happy.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, I love trying to shoot wide open, but yeah, it depends, like you said, on the movement. And I shot a short where we had a driving scene, and I wanted, we were towing the car, and so I wanted as many practicals in the background actually playing on the talent and seeing in the shot. And so I shot like, I think it was a 1.4 on Master Crimes. And the only lighting we had was like a very soft ambience that we put in the bed of the truck that was just like bouncing off and barely doing anything. Because when you're shooting at a 1.4, I think we were at 1600 ISO too. Any bit of light just is way too much.
Yeah. I always find it funny because I always wonder like actors or like, people that aren't really like seeing the monitor, like it's so bright on set, but yet we're shooting like a thriller. Like I wonder if they like think about that. Like, oh, like, oh, I hope this like looks like a thriller.
Yeah, I don't know. It also depends on the colors, because there's so much latitude now that like you could shoot it dark and the colors can just ruin it. So I
I've had that happen. Yeah.
yeah, I guess that's something we should talk about, like how, and I'm sure every project's different. Are you brought on to supervise a lot of the times, or do you find like they feel like you're going to take too much time, so they don't include you, or what's kind of, what have you been dealing with?
Yeah, no, usually I'm always included. And I kind of make that clear, sometimes even at the start of the project. One of my questions, I'll ask about budget and things like that, but I'll also say, what is your post process going to look like? Like, do you have a colorist already in mind? Obviously I have people that I like to use, make sure there's a budget for that. And then they always hit me up to come in and do a color session. Um, uh, I think someone's asking, when shooting, are you using one LUT for your project, or are you using different LUTs per scene? So one LUT, I think it gets a little crazy if you're trying to use so many different ones for each scene. I'll usually just like manipulate the color temperature at that point, but I won't change the LUT. Like I'll shoot like 2800 for kind of like maybe like a night interior, if I want it to be like a little on like the warm but like cooler side. And then, maybe I'll say, okay, we're going to be like at 5200 for like a daylight scene or something like that. Just monitor on set with Rec 709. I just keep it really simple. I feel like that's the best way, like not to get overwhelmed, with color temp and what LUT you're using, when. And also like the projects I work on, like we usually don't have like a colorist on set, so I wouldn't have someone, like reminding me or, switching out, the LUT that's being monitored. So yeah, and then what I'll do is like I'll usually take some footage on a hard drive from set, and then usually when they're editing, I'll be putting together like a look and kind of like my own LUT, like in DaVinci, or I'll color, like a couple of shots from a scene, and just have that for reference for the colorist, and then I'll show them the stuff that I colored, and that's how we kind of find a look for it.
Yeah, I've had this problem before where, because I do the same thing, I feel like it's just too much to think about unless you have a DIT just working on that. I've I have the Alexa Mini, and I got the like, can't remember what it's called, but it's like the looks that you can get for it.
Oh, like the looks table?
Yeah, it's like they charge you for it, of course. I think it was like $400 or $500, and I was like, this is awesome. Like, I'm gonna put these cool LUTs on, and it'll have the look built in, and then I can, in post, it's not there, and you can toggle it on and off and redo it. But then the problem was my director lived with the film for like 6 months with that LUT, and I didn't love the LUT. It was like doing some crazy stuff with the greens, and it was yellow and green and like ugly, and the director loved it. And I actually colored that project, and we're really good friends, but I was just like, it's not supposed to look like this. Like, I put this LUT on. Like, you don't understand. She's like, no, but that's how we shot it. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, so that was frustrating, and we ended up doing a good compromise. But I feel like LUTs, if you don't have a DIT or colorist on set dialing it in with you, then it's not worth it. It's just better to do what you said, Rec 709, so that your highlights are punched up, your blacks are crushed, and then you go from there. And you can use that for lighting, because that way if you blow out the highlights a little, you're not really blowing out the highlights. So in post, you can bring them back down.
Yeah. Yeah, I've even had, going back to what you were saying about that director story, I've had directors that have like edited just with the log footage before, and then so that's all they're seeing, for a couple of months, and then we go into color and we really, push the contrast and everything, and I'm like, oh, it looks great, and they're like, oh, it's way too much contrast, and they just want to bring it down because they're so used to just looking at that super flat image.
Yeah.
So always like, and that's more so like directors who are editing the project themselves, they just like won't like, usually an editor will throw like the LUT on, but yeah, so I'll always like tell them, hey, like you need to put this LUT on, and like, and same thing with like the aspect ratio. Like sometimes like I'll see a cut and like they don't have the 2.4 to 1 like bars on, and there's like the lights in the frame, and I'm like, I can't even, it's like I don't even want to look at this.
I actually would prefer the director and the editor to have just the log and like edit with that, because I much would rather it be released, flat than like ridiculously overexposed and crushed, and like those crazy greens and stuff. Because I don't mind that flat look for a lot of projects. I mean, I think it's different depending on what camera you use. I feel like the Alexa isn't as extreme as like a red RAW file, but I guess it just depends on what it is. Someone asked a question. Oh, can you talk about the LUT again?
Oh yeah. Hi Brian. Yeah, so I just monitor with Rec 709 LUT for all my projects. I don't use different LUTs. Just because I think it gets too confusing on set to try and deal with that.
Yeah, it's too much. But I found actually recently on a project I did Rec 709, and in coloring, because I was coloring it, I liked the way it looked. Like it was doing something that was, it was just easier to start from that than to start from scratch. Because it was like adding blues to the blacks, and it just had this interesting look that I probably normally wouldn't do. But and maybe if I was a professional, like full-time colorist, like I could easily recreate it, but it was just like, it's there. So just apply a Rec 709 LUT, and resolve the area to 709, and it gets you that. It's like a good starting off point.
Yeah, I agree. I think my only qualm with the Rec 709 Airy LUT is especially when you're shooting a warm scene with tungsten lighting, the blacks get polluted with red a lot, which I absolutely hate. So I
Yeah.
find myself just pulling out that red like all the time just to get like a true black.
Hmm. Do you think it depends if you're on tungsten or daylight?
Yeah, I think I mostly notice it with using tungsten lights, you know, in like a warm like night interior scene. Something
Uh,
like this actually. Or
cool.
this too.
So JK has a question. I'd love to hear you talk about using your instincts within your work.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think instincts just like come a lot with experience too, you know, like um, you know, what, you know, how I want something to look. Again, this kind of goes back to what I mentioned in the very beginning about how I like to light based on like what the protagonist is like feeling, because that's just how like I see it. Like when I read a script, you know, that'll just kind of like, oh, this is going to be like a bluer scene, or oh, this is going to be a warmer scene, or oh, this is like kind of a, you know, weird kind of greenish scene that I'm like kind of seeing. And I like to incorporate color a lot. Um, so yeah, I just kind of like run with it, I guess. And yeah, and I've definitely been on set where like, you know, my instincts are saying one thing, and then, you know, my head like, you know, says, oh, that's not right. You know, you should, you know, do it this way. And then, you know, usually that's not, I don't like that then. That's not the way. And then, you know, I see it like in the film or whatever, and I'm like, oh, you know, I should have stuck with what I wanted to do because that was probably the right answer.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's experience and your mistakes. When you're on a show and your instincts say to do this one thing, and then you do a couple shots, and then you're like, damn it, I wish I had the light there, and then you move it, and then it looks way better, or it works with the story more. And then you see the cut, and it's like not matching, and then so now next time you do the project, you're gonna put the light probably in the right place the next time,
Hmm.
or you know, and this takes years, and we're always getting better at it. Like we're never gonna be perfect, even the best DPs. You've never really gotten to that part. I think with more experience, you have less of those mistakes where you put the light in the wrong spot.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other factors too, right? Like it's not just about like your instinct, but it's based on the blocking, you know, that's going to affect where you put the light, you know, it's, you know, um, you know, time restrictions.
Um, so hold on a second. We have another question. Oh, it's on my. Hold on a second. Okay, this is a question from Lisette. What is the industry like for a female DP? Is it more difficult to get the jobs you prefer?
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, I mean, I don't think it's like like too different. I've never felt like I didn't get the jobs I wanted because I was a female. I think I do get a few like female like directors and like female producers that have like a very like female centric story that they want to tell. And I feel like they want to hire like a female DP, and sometimes they even want to have like the whole crew be female, you know. And I think that's important. I think it's important to give you know, women the opportunity. Although I will say I do get a little bit turned off when they just kind of come out and say, oh yeah, we want a female DP, because I'm like, well, why are you putting female in front of DP? Like I kind of want my work to stand out for itself. And that's really important to me. So, but I've never felt like I didn't like get a job, you know, because I'm a female. Like I don't think I've never found it like hard to like find work. But I think that's more a testament to like the work that I do. I don't think that really has much to do with uh gender.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important. I mean, people shouldn't be thinking about that in the industry, but it's still there. So, unfortunately. Um, but I think there's more women every day, women DPs getting out there, and that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm for sure like very fortunate to be doing this now, and like I'm still like very much an up and coming DP. But yeah, I think like yeah, like you said, it's getting better.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few, I have a few friends that have done some like women directing programs and things like that, shadowing and stuff like that. So there's definitely ways of helping, like getting your foot in the door, which is great. Um, so what's next? Okay, so let's play your next clip. It's from the same movie,
Hmm.
but this is later on in the movie where things kind of change.
Hmm. Yeah, this is definitely a more kind of like thriller horror look. Basically, the guy, one of our main protagonists in the film, he leaves the house, then he ends up coming back, and the whole look kind of changes.
Yeah, and yeah, we won't spoil it if anyone wants to see it.
Oh, I do want to say, it's having its official online release on Wednesday on Short of the Week.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Maybe you can post like a link, or I don't know how we can do that.
Yeah, we'll have to figure something out.
Okay. Yeah, we'll share it. Oh,
What's up?
here, let me start it over.
Where's the box? Rachel? Yeah? What's up? Where's the box?
Cool. So, talk a little bit about what we saw there.
Yeah, so when we kind of when we knew we were gonna for the location, when we knew that he was gonna be going down into like a basement, um, I definitely was like, okay, we got to do like a silhouette, right? Like a practical, like in the hallway behind him. And I had a reference image pulled for this like early on that I included like in my DP Bible. And then when we were on the Tech Scout, I kind of just like snapped these pictures of Caleb, the director. And he like there were these two like silhouette photos, and that was like my first like indication where I was like, oh, this is cool. Um, Actually, if you want to go to the next, actually go down a couple of slides. I have like four photos of this like silhouette. Will kind of show what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
And again, the exposure is incorrect. Her lamps are exposed. She knows what
Yes.
she's doing. It's on my end, sorry. Uh, so there we go. It's exposed. Or yeah,
Here we
this
go.
yeah.
Yeah. So this is what I was saying. Like the top left image is obviously from the finished film. Right below that was the reference that I pulled, and I don't know what movie that's from. This was before the shot deck days, so this I just got from Google. And then the two images on the right is Caleb at the Tech Scout.
Cool. Um, Yeah, they match pretty well. So when you're on set, or when you're scouting a location, do you tend to do stills, like video storyboards? What's kind of your process?
Yeah, I'll usually just do stills. I kind of find I have like a Fujifilm X100T that I'll just take with, and that's gives me like a really good starting point of just taking like whatever crew is on the tech scout with me, and I'll try and find like I'll set the camera to like a specific like white balance, and it's really easy to do that like on the Fuji, and I'll try and like emulate what I want the look, you know, to be. So if I know I want the look to be like a little more yellow, like this film, I'll push that in the stills camera and then just like kind of snap a bunch of images. And that's also a really good way for me to, you know, kind of talk with the director more about the look. And it's kind of, it becomes even a little bit more collaborative rather than just pulling images from, you know, Shot Deck or Google or whatever, you know, because it's like, okay, I'm actually creating it now, we're creating it, you know, let's, you know, really dial it in of what of how we want it to look.
Right. Yeah, I tend to switch depending on the project between like my iPhone and using Artemis, or using I have a Leica with a 35 and using that. I don't know, they both have pros and cons to it. Um, it's nice to use a camera with manual settings so you can kind of see what it naturally is doing. Where if you use an iPhone, it's kind of like you don't know where you're at.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, the iPhone, it's more like auto, and yeah, you can't control it. But there was, I don't really do like video per se of like of blocking or anything. I've done it once. It was on my last feature that we shot in November. And it was a horror like 90 or 100 page script. And it was at the producer's request because the director was it was first time director's first feature. It was my sixth feature, but I think the producer it was a little worried, just wanted to make sure that like the director and me were on the same page and we kind of knew you know, how we wanted the blocking. So she wanted stills and video taken. So we went to the location when we had kind of a half a day planned out, where we had some crew members, and we really like blocked it out. And yeah, Bloodborne, uh, one of my crew members from that film just joined.
Nice. Welcome.
But yeah, it's definitely a good you know, because then it's like it almost serves as like a storyboard in a way, you know, like taking stills or video of like the scene.
I know it's so easy. It's just more about time, like do you have time or not? But I feel like the benefit of doing it, it's so important and powerful that and efficient, you might as well do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you're working on a big film and you don't have a lot of pre-production, or it's in another country, or you know, you're not able to go to the location, then you gotta just do overheads. So do you use Shot Designer for overheads, and do you tend to do that for a lot of your project?
Yeah, I still use Shot Designer even though it's kind of outdated. It's like it's so easy to me. It's like so second nature. I've been doing it, you know, for years. I'm trying to get more into using film objects in like concepts on the iPad, but I'm still actually that's one thing I'm doing during this quarantine is I'm trying to get myself more familiar with that, because the only thing that I don't like about Shot Designer is the units aren't updated at all. So when like my gaffer's looking at it, you know, I'll have like you know, what looks like a Kino like 4'4" bank, and then I have to write in beside it, oh no, this is a light matte 2L. This is not what it looks like. And that's just, I hate doing that, but it's easy. So I stick with that. But yeah, I try, and if I have enough like prep time before something, like I'll definitely try and do overheads. And it's more so, it's a lot of the times more so for myself, just trying to get like the lay of the land and like figuring it out, like, okay, how do I want to light this? Where do I want the practicals? Which was something in this film. The practical placement was super important because we were always just lighting from that. And I did it for this too because we had to black out all of the windows in this house because this was all shot day for night. So I had to take very specific measurements.
Yeah, I
And
saw
then
that on one of these slides. This.
yeah, so this is the overhead. So it just has all the window measurements there. And then from here, because we mostly lit this practical house location, just like by room. And we kind of like lit the space rather than focusing on like lighting the characters so much, which is something that I don't do too often, but it was a time thing on this because this was a 2-day shoot and we literally shot 40 shots each day. So we had 80 shots in 2 days. And we would tweak here and there, like obviously if we needed like an eye light or something, yeah, we'll like fly something in. I also only had a gaffer. That was it. It was me, a gaffer, and a first AC.
Oh my God.
That was the crew. Yeah. This is like the little film that could, and like when we even got into South by Southwest, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I literally said to Caleb, I was like, who knew? Who would have known,
Yeah. Talk about that experience a little bit. Having a film, because I'm sure you shoot a lot of projects that aren't seen or maybe don't get finished, or and then you do this project, like you said, where it's like a small crew. Like, it sounds like not a running gun, but you have to move really quick. And then you get into this really awesome festival and you win an award. So talk about that and that experience and if that's helped your career at all, if you've met anyone, anything like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it felt like really good that people were actually gonna like see it. And I went to South by, and I was in the theater for both of our screenings, and just hearing people like scream is like the best thing. Cause I'm like, that's hard, that's not easy to do. And people like, people were actually scared. And I was like, you just feel like, the whole team, like we did it, like we, but yeah, no, I do shoot a lot of projects that, unfortunately, like don't get finished, and don't get seen. So, I think it's definitely like helped me. I think it has helped me get work, because it's like the only project that, has this like big award from this festival. So people see that and they're like, oh wow, like, she, she probably knows what she's doing.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think I've met, I know I had like a couple people reach out to me for a few projects, and they mentioned that they were like, oh, I know you shot like Other Side of the Box. They like specifically mentioned it. But I don't think I don't think I ended up working with any of those people, but people did reach out.
That's cool. And how they find you? They like Instagram or?
Yeah, Instagram is a big one. I think that's probably the main one. Some people find my website like somehow, I don't know how, on Google, if you're not like specifically searching for it. I know there's one director that I've worked with 3 times now. He said that he just Googled like Los Angeles like DP or something like that. He might have threw in like film school or something in there, and he was like, yeah, I found your website that way. I was like, wow.
That's good to know, because it's like, I mean, it seems like websites aren't really, like DPs have websites, but no one you don't know if anyone's even looking at them, and people are so into social media now. Like, is it more important just to focus on that aspect and like, or like do both? Like, I don't know. I have both, but I always feel like no one's even looking at it.
Yeah, yeah, Instagram, I'm always trying to like keep up with that. Like for a long time my Instagram was just my work. But now I just kind of I post like photos, like I street photography and stuff like that. And like especially now during quarantine, I'm still like trying to be active on Instagram and like post like past like photos that I've taken just so that people don't forget about me.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but on my Instagram, it's like, it's just street photography. And every once in a while, I'll post a cinema thing, which is kind of like, I feel like I'm not representing my work as a DP like I should be, but I don't know. I just like it. I like doing street photography and shooting film, and it's just kind of like I like separating work and fun, I guess.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I could be hurting my representation by doing that.
Yeah, it's a fine line kind of.
Do you shoot film ever, like with still or film projects?
I have I have a really hard time convincing like directors and producers especially to shoot film for the project just because it's, more expensive. So I usually never win that battle, unfortunately. I also like don't have a ton of experience with film. Like I learned film in college at LMU. They taught us 16 and 35 millimeter. But I think that's another reason. It's like I don't have, I'm not like I'm not known as like the film DP. I'm known as like pretty much shooting digital. Um, and I used to shoot film stills. And actually, I took like a black and white 35 millimeter class at LMU, and I would like be in the dark room and I would develop and process them myself as well. And then when I graduated, I was still like kind of doing that, but then I got like busy and I was like, I didn't really do it much anymore, but I need to get back into at least like taking still photos of like 35 millimeter for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like film helps as a cinematographer, just visualizing things before even looking at the camera. Because now DPs are just used to, and that's what I want to get into, like monitoring. Um, like, are you using your eye when you compose or expose and compose shots, or you first you have to have the camera up and then like look through the monitor, or what's your experience with that?
So I still carry a light meter on me, and that's actually all spot meter, like someone's face, and that just tells me like what I need to set my like f-stop to. So I'll just set it to that, and that's like my first indication. And then I'll put the light meter away, and then I'll use false color as well, for like specific objects and other things, like in the frame. But like for someone's face, I still like I trust my meter.
Yeah, it's more consistent for sure. Um, but yeah, the nice thing about film is the latitude, so you don't have to be exact as much as with digital, especially with the overexposure. But yeah, there's so many nice tools now with false color. So do you have? I noticed in your stills you have I think it was like the Odyssey monitor. Do you have like a specific monitor you trust that you like to use on board, or like a client type thing?
Yeah, I did have an Odyssey. I don't have that one anymore, because it was getting like a green like kind of tint to it. And I didn't know what was going on, and I called Convergent Design and I said, "Hey, can you like calibrate this?" And they told me, "Oh, it doesn't need to be calibrated. Like it's like fine how it is." And I'm like, "No, it's not." So I just ended up like selling it. So I use TV Logic 5.5 OLED as my onboard. And I find that to be like really accurate. I trust that for exposure, contrast. I like have to have that. I own two. And then for client monitor, I own an old like Panasonic 1710, which also I find is like pretty accurate, both in color and contrast. So I'll usually just bring that on.
Yeah, I have a TV Logic 17-inch. Sounds like a similar kind of model as your Panasonic, and yeah, it's just basic. I don't even think it's 1080, but it looks sharp and it does what it needs to. It doesn't have any bells and whistles. I actually just bought a small HD 17-inch that has like a million bells and whistles. I haven't used it yet because I bought it right before we got shut down.
Is that color and contrast accurate like right out of the box or no? Because I don't know. I hear like so many different things about that with small HD.
Yeah, people say bad things. Small HD says it's calibrated. I don't know. It's probably not super accurate. But I tend to use the tools like you're saying. Like,
yeah,
I'm using the monitor more for like a general exposure, and just to like double check. And it's for the client most of the time. But yeah, like false color and like normally I'm shooting on Alexa and there's so much latitude that I'm not really worried about exposure that much. Like a lot of times I put a exposure in iris motor and I have the AC do exposure. And I'll just say like put it in the middle, like because I'm lighting to my eye. I make it look how I want. And then I just want the exposure that captures as much of the meat of it. So I'm not picky where I'm like, go down a third of a stop. Like I like to kind of keep it at the same stop, which I learned from film where I would light around the stop. So I'd make it look this one way and the whole scene would be consistent to that. And the stop would stay at a 2.8 or 2 or whatever. So I'm not messing around with exposure. And then when you get into telescene, they're not really doing anything. They're setting the scene once and then they just run it and it kind of like is consistent throughout the board. So I kind of took that mentality to digital. And I find it's a little bit more consistent. But the more advanced the cameras are getting, the less I think you have to worry about exposure. So let's talk about agents. So you recently got repped. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So yeah, I recently had Deborah Martone represent me, and we got connected by Jimmy, this other DP who I actually pulled focus for and operated for on a feature in January of 2019. And I signed on to pull focus for him, which I actually don't really do anymore. That was like my last like focus pulling job. But then I also operated an Arri Maxima on a easy rig for a lot of like action, like fight sequence type stuff. And I was pretty good at it. And that was my first time using the Maxima. I've operated like Ronins and stuff before, so I like kind of knew what I was doing. And he was like really impressed, and he reached out to Deborah, and because she also reps like Steadicam ops, and he was like, oh, I don't know if you have a need for like a gimbal op, but like Laura Jansen is like pretty good, like let me connect you guys. And then so she reached out to me, or he connected the both of us, and then when I was like emailing her, I was like, I'm not really like a gimbal op, I'm like more of a DP. And then she like checked out my site and whatever, and she was like, okay, like let's meet. Like I'm not interested in you as a gimbal op, I'm actually interested in you as a DP. And I'm like, well, great, because that's like what I do. Um, and then, so I met with her, and then the big thing is like I wasn't union, and like she didn't know that.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, like this is definitely like a deal breaker, you know. And she was like, well, let's, she was like, do you have your days, you know? And I was like, yeah, I think I do. And I started like counting, and then she just like signed me. And I like tried to get into the union, but then they like threw out a bunch of my days. It's like this whole thing. So I'm still short like 20 or 25 days. But it's good, like, so like she can't really like get me a ton of work because she's all, you know, I need to be in the union because she just has like those are the only jobs that she has. But it's still good to like have her like, you know, when I get like bigger jobs, like she'll like make a contract for me, and it's just good to like have someone like, you know, kind of back me up like
Yeah.
in a way, you know, and like, you know, talk to the producers about, you know, like budget and like stuff that I don't really want to talk about. So like just even having her for that, it's been like really nice.
Yeah, that's great. Especially when producers try to like screw you somehow, like with your rate, or you know, even something like being involved with the coloring.
Yeah.
I feel like I've because I haven't had an agent, like that kind of, you know, they're just like, well, we're just gonna do it without you, and there's nothing I can really do. I'm not gonna sue them, you know. But if I had an agent like looking out for me, I feel like that would protect me a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like when she before she signed me, she was like, "Oh, we got to get you a new reel." And then Gilly is like her editor,
Mm.
that edits all her clients' reels. So that is another great thing that came out of it.
Yeah, cool. So you talked about you went to Loyola. Do you feel like film school? You went as an undergrad.
Yeah, undergrad.
Do you feel like it helped you in any way? I'm sure it did. Do you recommend it for people that are thinking about going to film school?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely helped me just because I knew that I wanted to be in the industry, but I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. And I really like discovered like cinematography just going through, you know, like the basic classes that they taught. Because what's good about LMU is you get a BA in film production, and they don't make you choose an emphasis. Now everyone kind of eventually finds what they want to do, and they kind of have like a, you know, undeclared emphasis. But
Yeah,
so everyone takes like directing classes, editing classes, cinematography classes. So like you really that forces you like to discover what you want to do. Um, in terms of like recommending it, I mean, yeah, I would recommend it. I think if you know, like your family is not already in the industry and you don't have a way of like just getting on set and like, you know, having like a direct contact that can like get you opportunities, it's really hard to find those opportunities like just yourself. So I would recommend it for that. I think it depends on the person. I think if you're a person that, you know, thrives in like a class like atmosphere and like if you really need like structure, then yeah, I think you need to go to film school. Um,
do you still work with the same people, or is there people you still collaborate with, um, or are you kind of just like starting with new people, or is it just a mix?
it's I actually don't work with that many people from film school. I did like when I first graduated, but a lot of my ACs, like I had this one like go-to AC who now works at a rental house. So like he can't really pull focus for me anymore.
Mm.
So there's been things that like has like happened like that. And then my gaffers, like I never really had a go-to gaffer that I um went to school with, because the gaffer who gaffed everything in film school with me, he went into VFX right after we graduated. So my gaffers are just people that I met just on set, and that were hired by the producers.
Cool. Yeah, I it's similar to me. There's a few directors I still work with, but I feel like a lot of my projects are shot in other states or countries, so I have to work with new people, and it's fine. It's just sometimes there's a language barrier, and like you were saying before, there's more of a shorthand when you work with the same crew, so it saves time and you don't have to micromanage as much. But that's just how it is sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, I work with one director that I went to school with. Her name is Emily. We did a short together, and then we did a feature together back in summer of 2018. But I think she's the only director that I went to school with.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the crew that I've been working with, especially ACs, they start getting really popular and booked. So like, because I try to work with good people, and then it's like a few days before the shoot, and they're like, hey, I just got a union gig, and pays a lot better. I can get your replacement, and I can't really be like, no.
Yeah, you're mine. You can't. How could you?
So yeah, I've had that problem where I've had to, yeah, like my crew's getting too good. So for the types of projects I'm doing sometimes don't pay enough for, and I don't blame them. Like I would want to go to the better paying job too. So have you had that situation, or what do you tend to do?
Oh yeah. Oh, all the time. All the time. Yeah, I mean, usually they'll say, "Oh yeah, I can get you a replacement." And I'll say, "Well, let me reach out to like, my people, my other, firsts or whatever that I know. And then if I can't find anyone, then we'll go with your replacement." And I don't know, it's kind of like half and half of whether I can find someone that I know already or whether, they do have to replace themselves. I'm just always like really like hesitant about them like replacing, because it's just like I really don't know the other person. It's like I'm putting so much trust, like especially in like focus pulling, like and gaffing too. I'm putting so much trust in this person. I'll usually like have to like hop on the phone at least with them like before they're like officially hired.
Yeah,
Like just to have like a short like conversation and just like feel it out.
I mean, I've done that before, and the person was super cool on the phone, and I met them in person. They're super cool, but then they did some things on set that I just didn't like, and it's unfortunately when you do projects, sometimes they're long, sometimes they're short, but this one luckily was just short, but it kind of sucks because it's like, well, you just wasted this guy's time and my time, and they didn't want to be there, but that's how it is. Like, you're not going to have your A crew for every shoot, and you got to learn how to compromise with new people every time.
Yeah, that's a huge skill. Yeah, that people don't even really think about.
Yeah. Well, let's show Rolling with the Rookies. Can you you talked a little bit about it, but just kind of like just like intro it.
Yeah. So yeah, Rolling with the Rookies is a limited series that kind of follows the lives of these five football players who were drafted in the 2019 season. And so this was a travel job. And it was like a 15-day shoot. We traveled to 5 different cities within that time.
Wow.
We had 2 cameras, 2 Alexa Minis. We shot with the Leica Summilux lenses. I had a Ronin 2 and an Easy Rig that I was operating A camera with. And then B camera was either operated by Eric Kaufman, who was the director for the first 2 episodes. So he operated B camera when he was directing. he comes from a photography background, so he really enjoyed doing that. And then when we had our second director, Justin Polk, come on for the last 3 episodes, we actually had my gaffer operating B camera, which he actually did a really nice job.
That's cool.
Yeah. Oh, and I didn't say this is season 3, which I shot, but I did not shoot seasons 1 and 2. That was shot by Idan Menon.
And this is your first big agency job, right?
Yeah, it was. It's yeah, how I got this is like kind of crazy. Because I operated B camera on just 1 episode of season 2. And the executive producer remembered me. And when they were looking for another, I think they wanted Idan to shoot season 3, but something happened, I think, like kind of last minute to where he couldn't do it. And then I was actually at South by with Other Side of the Box when I got the call, like saying, hey, like we, like you're in the running. It's like you and like 2 other DPs that we're looking at to like shoot this. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And I was actually in line waiting to see a film at South by. And I'm like just sitting on the sidewalk. And they're like, okay, I'm going to call you back in like 5 or 10 minutes. And I need you to speak with like the 2 directors. And I'm like, okay. So they call me back. I speak with the directors. I speak with the EP again. They're like, okay, well, you know, you'd be flying out in a week for this. Like the shoot's in a week. We're going to be making the decision within the next 30 minutes. So I'll call you back. I'm like, okay. And everything was like so rushed. And then I'm like, literally, 10 minutes went by, I think. I'm walking into the theater now to see this film, and my phone rings and they say, you got it. And I literally had to walk out of the theater and go back to my hotel room and get started on prep.
Well,
It was insane.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a good story. Yeah, it's always great. I feel like every time I get a job, it's like you like won the lottery or something, because there's so many. This industry is so competitive, especially living in LA, like we do. That yeah, every time I get booked on a job, I'm like, really? Like, but there's so many other people.
Yeah. You can't think like that though either, because like, you know, even, and I hate Instagram for this too, because I'm looking at so many other people's work and I'm like, oh man, like I want that job, like I want to do something like that. And I have to like stop myself and just be like, you know, and then I look at my work, you know, and I'm like, oh, okay, like it's not, my work's pretty good too. Like like I always go through these like different thoughts. Like I could be on set, you know, and I'm like, oh, like this, you know, why doesn't this look like Nightcrawler, you know, or like what, you know, and then I'll see the finished film, you know, like 2 years later, and I'm like, oh wow, like this looks pretty good. Like why was I beating myself up about this?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just the work. It's like what we're talking about with crew. It's their attitudes and who you are as a person and your life experience. So, and there can also be something in your reel that they gravitate towards. Like, oh, that's kind of the scene I want to do. I want it to look like that. So even though there might be a more experienced DP, like you're doing more what they're looking for. So,
And that's why I didn't think I was going to even get the Rolling with the Rookies job, because I hadn't done anything like that. Like that was a documentary, like limited series, like a docu-series. I hadn't done that before. They needed it's sponsored by Hyundai, so they needed like cinematic like car commercial shots. I didn't have any of that. So honestly, the reason they picked me, and this is what the EP told me, he said we wanted someone like young and someone who would give like 120%. He said because that's what we needed on this 15-day shoot. We needed someone to just go above and beyond, you know, who can make sure we make our days, get all the shots, you know, and kind of someone who like would work themselves to the bone, you know,
yeah.
over it.
Yeah. I could see that. I mean, I feel like I've been hired on a few jobs because of that. Like, they know they're going to go not abuse me, but in a way, like they know they're going to go overtime, and they know I can work really quickly but make it look cinematic, which always sucks when you get hired that way. Like it's more about you know how to make pretty images quickly than tell the story. But
Mm.
I'll still take the work.
Yeah, of course.
It's good practice. Cool. So let's watch Rolling with the Rookies, and then you can talk, or no, just talk after because I'll play it with music.
Okay. Yeah, this is the promo for season 3.
Okay, great. Let me put the volume up. This is it, right?
Yep.
Okay.
But I want to be different. I don't want to be normal. Normal's boring. Different is fun.
Where I grew up, the different people that were around me, my community, you saw a lot of good things and a lot of bad things.
I felt like I got overlooked because I didn't look like the typical football player.
Second time she got sick, she started like basically preparing me for the worst.
Like when you wake up in the morning, you think about how you gonna get to your next meal. Survival status.
Nice. Cool. So I'll just turn the volume off and play it again, and you can just talk through it, or you can tell me to pause
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah,
like how
so
natural it is, and how the camera's like kind of handheld feeling a lot of the time.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, A camera was on the Ronin, and then B camera was always handheld. So the two directors really kind of wanted a cinematic, like kind of gritty, like down to earth feel to it. I think like seasons 1 and season 2 were a little bit more like polished. They had a little bit more of a commercial type feel, and we kind of wanted to go in a little bit of a different direction for season 3. We added like film grain on it in the color too to give it that. But yeah, everything is mostly naturally lit. We carried a very small G&E package that we had to fly with, and it was mostly for the interview setups. So we had two 2x4 light tiles that would make a 4x4 softbox.
Mm.
And that was really cool because it was a nice like you kind of like build the frame, and then you have like a frame in front of it that you could throw whatever diff that you wanted. I think we usually use like it was like quarter or half silent grid and then Muzz over that. And again, that was mostly for the interviews. All the B-roll, we were just trying to like position the subjects, so that where the sun or whatever light that was coming in was giving us kind of a far side key, or backlit, or trying to get a silhouette or, something that looked cool. And then I know there was this one gym, this one here, I think I have some examples of it, but we walk in the gym and it's just all like overhead, like fluorescent lighting. And me and my gaffer are like, oh God, like, and we knew that we couldn't even like light it with the softbox, or like, we also had quasars that we carried. We knew we couldn't like light it because these guys, when they would work out, they were like, okay, we're gonna work out and you're just gonna film it. And like we can't like tell them to do something again, or like it was really like kind of run and gun, just get it. So what we ended up doing for that gym with the fluorescence is we just turned like one row off so that it was, just one side was lit and the other side was dark. And that's how we were able to get like the contrast in that location. So it's like really simple stuff like that, but it's just like thinking on your feet, and experience has a lot to do with it. But yeah, just trying to like shape the light as much as possible by just blocking the subjects in the right way is kind of how we accomplish that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It looks like you had huge, like, you had 18Ks out the windows and had all
Nope,
this prep.
just the sun.
So it just shows to other cinematographers that, you don't need much to make it look amazing. It's more about experience, like you said, and the direction. Like I'm sure you probably do this too. When you walk in a room, for a scene, you probably want to be shooting towards the windows. 9 times out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
If you shot the other way, it wouldn't look the same. You would have to do a lot more to get the shape, and
mm-hmm.
so it's basic things like that I feel like most cinematographers, I mean, every cinematographer should know, but I feel like directors should know it too, because I don't know if you had this problem, but like you were talking about earlier with blocking a scene, sometimes the directors have, they want to block a scene a certain way, and they went to the location without you for whatever reason, and I mean, that happens a lot of time. The DP is not there. So they want to block it in a certain way, but they're not thinking like, oh, they want to shoot towards the windows. So now when you get there, you have to kind of like untrain their mind to be like, can we block it this way because the lighting is this way? And it's kind of finding that balance where you don't want to like micromanage it, but it's also going to make the look of the project look the way they want by doing it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and Eric Kaufman, who directed the first 2 episodes of this, like I said, he came from a photography background, so he was very much involved with that. Like the one gym, let's see if it comes up again, but that also, there was a second gym that had fluorescent lighting up above, but it also had a window, kind of a high window, and he turned to me at the tech scout and he was like, so what do you think, Laura? Like, we just turn these lights off and let the natural light come in through this window? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, we'll shoot with that window in the background, we'll shoot with the window from the side, and then if he needed to tell like Taylor Rapp, who was our subject for that, if he needed to tell Taylor, Taylor, I need you to turn this way, he could just like kind of shout that out, which was really nice. Our setup for the interviews was, again, we had 2 cameras. So we used a camera as just kind of getting your standard like frontal, medium close up to medium shot. And then we had B camera, and we were like, what are we going to do with this? And both directors kind of came up with this great idea of let's get a kind of unique, different angle with the B camera. Let's throw out a wider lens, and let's, have the subject kind of be smaller in the frame, and let's try and utilize the space that we're in, to get a creative type of angle. So what that meant was we never wanted to like break the line, right? So we only had like that, 30-degree, kind of area that we could work with. So it was either getting kind of like a side like profile shot and short framing it, which we had to do a lot, because if we didn't short frame it, we would usually get a camera in the shot. That wasn't a problem with the images that you're seeing here because the space was big enough, but that was definitely a problem with like the smaller like spaces. Like, yeah, here we had to short frame it. This is actually a cool example because there's like a flare that's coming in on the wider shot on like the right. And Eric Kaufman, director, gets full credit for this because this was his idea. He put a piece of clear tape just on the side of the matte box to create that.
Wow.
Which I had never done that before, and now I do it all the time.
Yeah, it's like a little diffusion flare on the side.
Yeah.
I wonder, yeah, you could probably do that with like diffusion, like 250 or 216.
Yeah, he just used like tape, but yeah, I'm sure you could do it with that. And there wasn't even that much light coming in through those windows. I know it looks like it's really overexposed on your thing, but it actually it isn't. So yeah, you don't even need that much light kind of coming in.
Yeah, it's a nice subtle flare. Yeah, and I wanted, before you told me that you framed it this way because for technical reasons, I was thinking about it and I felt like it could kind of work in the edit if these shots are cut back and forth, because it's kind of like, when you, in a narrative, if two people are talking, they're on the right, they're on the left, and your head's kind of bouncing back and forth. And I feel like if it's one guy being interviewed, you're kind of doing the same thing with the same person. So I've actually never done this with an interview, but I think it's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, I think it worked really, really well. And then go to the next, what's the next one? Okay, yeah, so this is some similar idea with like the short framing. Go to the next one. Okay, yeah, so then the other kind of thing that we did was we could put the B camera just like slightly below A camera, which we did in a couple situations. So this is an example of that.
Oh yeah. Like
Yeah,
horrible on my end, sorry. Yeah, that's crazy. Did you have like special sticks, or how did you get it right under like that?
I think we had like Sackler 18 tripods, and we just like put out the spreaders all the way and got it as low as it could go, I'm pretty sure, or close to that, and that was enough.
Yeah, I saw in one of the shots behind the scenes, let's see, you had like a run-in setup. Were you shooting the interview on a run-in?
We were, because both directors didn't want to have any crew operating the cameras. They didn't want anyone in the room, because they really wanted to treat the interview like this, like, really sacred thing. And plus, like, the people that we're interviewing are just normal people. Like, they're not used to, being filmed. So he thought that they'd be more comfortable if it was just, him in the room. So yeah, so with the B camera, that was fine because it was wide enough, there was no reason that we needed someone to be operating it. But with A camera, because we were doing that kind of tighter framing, there would be moments where I needed to adjust the pan or the tilt a little bit, and I would just do that in another room with the joystick of the Ronin 2.
I was gonna ask about that because I recently did a shoot. It was a corporate shoot where we only had one camera, so I couldn't go from stick mode to gimbal and back and forth because of time. So I did some shots where I put it on the Dana dolly, but then when we came to the interview, I was using a Movi Pro, and I was like, yeah, I'll just do what you're doing. But then I noticed like a slight shift where it would start panning. I can't remember which way, but it would pan left or right, like very slowly. And so, as you know, like if you're doing a 45-minute interview, like if it's barely panning, it's going to be completely on the other side by the time the interview is over.
Oh, it was just doing it like by itself?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's kind of like a drift that gimbals do. I think Ronin 2 maybe fixed the problem, or I do know that the Ronin 2 has locks on it, so if you did lock if you wanted it locked off, you could do something like that. But what I ended up doing was just killing the motors, just turning it off, and just like, it was kind of janky, but I put a sandbag under it and I kind of jerry-rigged the frame, and that's how I shot it. And it saved a lot of time for, having to go off of it. But that was really cool that it's good to know that you use the Ronin 2 and you didn't have to, you could operate off of it. Like a
yeah. Yeah, it worked pretty well. I think like the joystick, it isn't the best to get like, fine movements, because I had like all the settings turned like way down, so that it wouldn't just like jerk up right away or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think like wheels are definitely like the way to go. But obviously that was just another thing that we would have had to travel with, and it kind of would have complicated things.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I think that the big thing about shooting these interviews is, you saw some photos there where we had really great locations, but a lot of the locations were just in someone's house, and what we would do is we would have a tech scout. So we would shoot 2 days in each city, and then we'd get an early flight. We'd fly to the next city and get in around like noon, and then immediately go into the tech scout for that new city, those new locations. So I think it's important, like when we're in people's houses, like you have to find ways of like getting creative, right? Like, and you have to pick like cool backgrounds and and again, this comes with experience, but this is something that I really like to do. And I don't shoot that many documentaries, but when I do get the chance to, I really enjoy like picking the interview location. Because if you go back, I think it's back. Yeah. So like, yeah, like this one here, like that's just from the tech scout, and that's like our production manager just like working at their dining room table. And I'm kind of going throughout the living room and like the kitchen area and whatever, and I'm like, oh well, what would be good, like as a cool background. And then we saw this kind of armoire like thing, and I was like, oh, that'd be like, I'm seeing reflections in it already, like that would look really cool on camera, like in an interview. So if you go to the next slide, so that's what we ended up with.
Wow.
And I think it just works like really nicely.
Yeah, I think the trick to, because I've done a lot of corporate work and weddings and stuff, and you have to use natural light or minimal light. So finding the right angles for the lighting, for best light and composition, is a good trick to have, technique. Because it translates over to narrative. It just makes you that much stronger as a DP if you can walk into a location and be like, yep, we're shooting cameras here for the master, all the angles, like this is the way we're looking. Because it'll save time. It'll save time in lighting. It'll save time in blocking. And you'll get the look that you're probably going for.
Yeah, for sure. And then we did, if you go back, like one more. Yeah, so this is like their dining room location. And I was like, okay, like, to get some texture, like, and also to help with like exposure, like I wouldn't be able to expose those windows if they were just like left open, like I said, let's pull the blinds. So go to the next slide, and this is what we ended up with.
Yeah, so much better.
Yeah. And it's just really cool. Especially I love that wide, like getting the counter in the bottom of the frame dirty, the picture frame's dirty. I feel like it really draws like your eye to her.
Yeah, it's great. And I like how you didn't short-sight her too much, because it's more of a compositional thing here, technical, than like story reasons, I feel like. But if you put her, like, let's say on that far, like you put her within the window frame, but if you put her on the next one over to the right, it would just feel closed off and like it would make you feel uncomfortable. But the way you did it is more elegant, and it'll cut better. Nice. Yeah, I've been doing what you did here with a run-in on I did it on a Dana dolly recently, so I used it kind of like a remote head. And then I also did it on a jib. So I used the Mimic. I put the Mimic on the tripod head so that when you pan and tilt, the gimbal pans and tilts. So you're not using wheels, you're using just a regular head. So it's kind of cool if you're not great at wheels, which it's a very hard skill. But a lot of times I don't have an operator. So if I'm operating and I want to do something like that, it's great because you get the smooth pan and tilting, and you don't have to have the wheel skill to be able to get that remote head type of shot. So
I need to try that. Yeah, because I'm I'm not the best at wheels. Like I can do it. I can like get the shot, but yeah, I could definitely like refine a little bit more.
Yeah, if you have any questions about it, let me know. It's pretty easy because the Mimic has a quarter 20 hole in the bottom, so you can put like a Naga arm on it. And then on the dovetail plate, there's a quarter 20 thread, so you can screw into that. So it's basically, so then you can, because like the annoying thing about the Mimic is, it's annoying, but it's cool too. For the horizon line, you physically have to move the Mimic like left or right. So for every shot, once you have it set up, you like pan and tilt it so you get the right horizon line. And there's also a button on it to like release the pan and tilt so that you can orientate the head how you want it without moving the camera. And so then when you're ready to move the camera, you're aimed at the right place. So what I normally do is I'll have like the 17-inch right in front of me, and I'll use that as my monitor.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's great. I used a music video or it was a commercial, but it was a choreographed dance, and I was super happy with what we could do.
That's great. So if you wanna, let's show the car shots.
Oh yeah.
Because this is another like really like technical thing that I wanted to get into, like how we accomplished this, because this is still crazy to me to think of, and you'll see, because we had to get these car driving shots, but again, we only had myself, a gaffer, and my first AC to get these shots, and we only had an hour to an hour and a half per city to get them. So I'm thinking, all right, how are we gonna do this? And they told me that the previous DP that shot seasons 1 and season 2, that he would be in like the back of like a minivan, like with the Ronin, somehow secured in, and they just had the trunk open, and he'd kind of be just shooting out like the back. And I was like, okay, like I guess we could do that, but I feel like we could find something that is better and probably safer.
Right.
So I was thinking, well, let's get like a car mount, but then I was like, oh, but how are we going to do that? Because both cars have to be driving in the same direction, and we have to mount it like somehow on the back of like the camera car, right? To be shooting like frontal of the picture car.
Right.
So yeah, we ended up using just this like little rig. It's called Rig Wheels Cloud Mount. So go ahead and play the video.
Well, do you want me to show this?
Oh yeah, show it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what you were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never used it, but I've heard. Actually that shot I told you earlier about where I shot wide open on the Master Primes. I was gonna do it for that shot, but I didn't. I wanted it to be locked off on the guy's face because it was the opposite of what you're doing. Like it's shooting a guy driving the car instead of using it as like a car rig. But then I thought it would be weird because it would be like a floating kind of feel on the guy's face instead of like a locked off, like kind of a little bit more shaky. So yeah, there's the pros and cons of it, but for what you use it for, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll play it for you.
Yeah, and I'm just operating this just with like the Ronin joystick too.
Wow. Super cool. Yeah, it looks like very high budget, and I'm sure it wasn't.
Right, exactly. No, it wasn't. We weren't able to get like an arm or like a whole rig or anything, but yet they wanted it to look like a commercial. Um, so I
And
have, yeah, go ahead.
a lot of it is also picking the right lighting, right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you always want to have it backlit, or side lit. And
So
yeah,
there's
that was,
what part of the vehicle did you mount the camera to?
oh, I have a picture of this actually. Um,
It's in the slideshow.
yeah,
Okay, I'll
it
play
should
it.
be. It should be after that one. Yep. So the left picture is we mounted it to the rear of the driver's side of our minivan, our production vehicle, and we set it up in the hostess tray setup. Um,
Can you flip, like if you wanted to, could you flip this and do so it's super low, like so the gimbal is upside down?
I think so.
Because that would be really nice.
Yeah, I think you can. I don't see why not. I think you would just flip the top part of the hostess tray part. Yeah. Um, we didn't do that because actually I think there were some moments where we did both. Because it was all about getting the right height of how to portray like the Hyundai.
Mm.
Um, and it was different with every minivan in every city because sometimes like in the first city they got like a 10-person white like pass van. And I think there we needed to like get the camera like a little bit lower, so we did flip it for that, which was actually this shot here. This is in Washington State. Just beautiful, those trees. And this is that first shot was actually a wider lens, which I like for like the scope of the location, but it doesn't make the car look as good. It makes the car look more like fat,
I love
which
that
isn't.
shot with the lens flare
Oh yeah.
close up.
Yeah, we
What
tried to get a lot of those like flares and things in there.
what camera and lenses did you use for this?
So this is the Alexa Mini and Leica Summilux,
Oh, you said that already, right? Sorry. Uh,
which is it's a great look, I think, for commercials.
did you
Like
use
very
any?
polished.
Did you use filters?
Yeah, we carried pearlescence, an eighth and a quarter. And then we also had classic soft. And I used the classic soft for the car shots.
Yeah, I see right there. There was like a little flare. It looked like there was some sort of filtration, or it was done in post right there on the top.
Hmm.
That's really nice. And there was another time where it flared, and it was kind of a nice overexposed little flare right there.
Yeah, we had a ton of them there.
It's way. It looks bad on my monitor. Sorry, but it looks great.
Yeah,
Just the live stream.
yeah, no, all those looks were just done in camera with filtration or just the sun flaring the lens.
That's cool. This could get you a lot of commercial, like car commercial gigs.
I know, that's what I was hoping for, but it hasn't yet. So I'm putting it out into the universe that I want to do more car stuff. So please, um, one person that worked on this, the production coordinator, he hit me up. He was like, "Hey, I got a car thing," but he was like, "I need you to have like more car work than just the Hyundai." And I
Mhm.
was like, "Well, I don't, but if you hire me, then I will." So
Yeah,
it's always like that catch 22, like, you have to have the work that they want to see.
yeah, I did. I work for Motor Trend, so it's all cars. I do mostly drone operating for them. We did a Jeep spot, and it was cool because I got to use Inspire 2, which you can do dual op. So the DP was also camera opping. And so I could get really close to the Jeep. I was going like a foot over it. And we had a tighter lens. So it looked like almost like a crane type of shot instead of a drone because it was more controlled and tighter.
Yeah, we did. We had a drone op in each city as well, that we used for some overhead car shots and also just like some establishing shots of each city where the player was from. And then we didn't do, I know there's a shot that just played from like the back, seeing the back of the vehicle, and we quickly realized that we don't really need to see the back. We realized that like after like episode like 1. And I was like, okay, well that's great because now we have more time to focus on like just getting the front of the car.
Right.
But it was really, I like the cloud mount because it has magnets instead of suction. I mean, it also comes with the suction cup mounts, but the magnets are just a lot stronger. So that's how we were even able to like hang the Ronin like literally off the side of,
Wow.
you know, the minivan. And it changed with each city we were in. We would obviously have a different minivan, and the contour, like the side contour of the doors, like was really kind of frustrating to work with because some were like some of the doors really kind of like sloped inward when you got to the bottom, and that was really challenging to figure out like the mount in that situation and get it secure.
How does the magnets not scratch the car?
Well, they're pretty soft. Like they're not very like, I think there's like rubber over it. They're not like very like super like rigid and like hard edged. So I think it'd be very hard for you to like scratch.
Right.
And then we had, I know I had a BTS photo where it was mounted on like the hood of the car, and that we just used, we had a few shots where we were driving like parallel to the subject driving the Hyundai, and they wanted to like get a side profile shot of just like him driving. So that's what we used that setup for. And then the couple of times that we did like want to get the back of the Hyundai, we obviously utilized that rig. But for the most part, it was just hanging off like the side back to get all those shots.
How long do you think each setup took? Like if you had to mount it on the hood, let's say, is it like a 30-minute thing, an hour?
It's about 30. Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not. Well, the first time that we used it when we were in Washington State, it took about an hour and a half, and production was like freaking out because I told them this is only going to take 30 minutes. But then it was our first time like using it, and the gaffer had never used it before either, and we're like trying to figure it out. And then thankfully, like, you know, they saw, okay, like once they got it, it's only going to take 30 minutes. But the first time setting it up was a little rough.
Yeah, it's good you guys figured it out. So we have a question from Ryan Miyamoto, one of my cinematography friends originally from San Diego. I think he's in Hawaii now. Is that right? So he asked, what does your prep look like for a commercial like this?
Yeah, so like for this one, the two directors sent me kind of like an image board that they put together. And you know, it involved like all like aspects of like the interviews to the car stuff. And then they wanted me to watch as many episodes of the first 2 seasons, you know, as I could. And they wanted specifically to talk about what I thought they did well in the first 2 seasons and what I thought that they didn't do so well and what we could improve on. And that was the bulk of our conversation in prep because, and I said things like the car shots that they got in the first 2 seasons were magnificent. I was kind of like, how am I ever going to match what they did? But some of the B-roll they could have improved upon. Some of just like the shots of like the players driving the vehicles, like it was like really shaky and like not framed so well. So I thought we could improve upon that. And then, yeah, like I said before, like just the kind of the look of it, like In seasons 1 and 2, they did light it kind of like darker, like, oh, this is a good example, like this kind of high contrast like look. And that's something that we definitely wanted to keep.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, yeah, like I said before, it looks super lit. Like not lit in a bad way. Like it has
Yeah,
this,
like we
like it has
yeah,
this.
like we actually did setups, and like we didn't. Like this is the gym where we took out, half of the overhead light bulbs, just to create that contrast, and this is the result you get. And this is just filming, having this guy work out, and we're just filming it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of lighting is taking lighting away and starting from scratch, especially when you go to a real location like that where it's probably going to be way overlit. There's going to be walls bouncing light all over the place. And he has darker skin, so you don't have to worry about negative fill.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So,
Yeah, we also carried a rotopola, which came in handy a lot. I mean, I had that thing in when we were outside all the time. And that's just a really good way to especially like darker skin tones. It kills the reflections off, and it just keeps like their skin nice and has good color to it. This was crazy right here, because this was the Hyundai over the bridge, and on any other shoot, that would actually shut down the bridge, this would be like a $20,000 shot, right?
yeah.
And we just totally snuck it. Like there was a sidewalk. You can see like kind of in the BTS photo, I'm there with the Ronin, and I'm just like on the sidewalk, and I did just this little kind of move, like in the direction that the car is going. We had some foreground there of the bridge, which was really nice, and we just totally stole the shot. And it's backlit, the car, so it works great. The only thing that's not so great is I wish it wasn't a white car, but what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, on my screen it's overexposed, but in the actual shot, it looks great, and I actually like how it's white on this because the street is really dark, and the poles are kind of darkish, and so it pops, but it's not, and it's also kind of in shadow, and it's like backlit. If it was in full sun, I would agree, like it would be a nightmare, but in this situation, it looks really good.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Cool. So anything else about this project you want to talk about?
No, I think we hit it all.
Okay, so let's talk about this one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the Diddy Bop music video. And I wanted to share this one because this looks like a oneer. And it's kind of like the concept is cool because it's kind of like this artist is like, performing to the camera, and then all of a sudden, like the, director kind of comes in and starts giving him notes and whatever. And then we kind of like follow him as he walks like behind the scenes of like the set. And the artist, whose name is Tavir Maui, he actually directed it. It was his first time directing. I think it was his first music video too. And yeah, it's 3 shots made to look like one shot. And I went into it knowing that they weren't going to have like any VFX done to kind of stitch these together. So it was kind of up to me to really figure out simple ways of like, wiping the camera or having the lens kind of like covered to hide the cuts. So that's kind of what we did.
Cool. Like Euphoria style. in
Yeah.
1917. Cool. Yeah, let's take a look at it. And then you can talk about it afterwards. We'll replay it. Sorry, the sound was off. Okay.
I'm selling my soul, and I got some new clothes for you niggas that don't know. I've been strumming on these strings, I've been pulling at the seams, I've been trying to figure out a way to get up off the leash. Working the day job, it's wrapped around my neck, so I yank like A-Rod. And I've been missing lonely, but my name is not A-Con. Whipping in the kitchen.
So this beginning part, I'm just gonna talk over it. This beginning part is actually with a fisheye lens. It's a Nikkor 8mm, and then yeah, this is the cool part. You just kind of see like the whole set.
That was a wipe.
Yeah, so that's the first cut. And now we're not fisheye anymore. Now we're 25mm master prime.
Hmm.
And then yeah, we kind of just lit it like this like old Hollywood like kind of style with like these tungsten like maxi brute that we just kind of like put in. Like there's one in the background there. There's one behind him to the right there.
I love the
And then
they're just
yeah.
so heavy.
Yeah. And then I had a star filter in front to just give that that look to the maxi brutes, you know, those flares and the star shape.
There was one right there. It's
yeah.
like right. That's cool.
Yeah, there'll be more too.
I love those lights.
Yeah, those are just like regular like tungsten globes, light bulbs.
Soft. Yeah.
So there's the second wipe.
Those
And then I actually have a cameo. That's me sitting by Video Village. There you get the wonderful flares again.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Right there. Oh, he's fine. There.
Yeah, right there. That's just me and my gaffer actually just sitting next to each other. And we had to look away from the monitor at that point.
So then you have to watch a replay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we watched replay actually after every shot and or every take. I think we did about anywhere from, I think it was around 10 takes, maybe 6 to 10 takes for each of the shots. And we had a rehearsal day, so the schedule was very, very nice on this one, and it was also very unconventional. Here's the great flares too outside. It was really unconventional because we actually didn't have an AD. So like I made the schedule. So I like told the producer, hey, we need to have one full day of pre-lighting. So we pre-lit, we showed up at like 6 a.m. to the stage, pre-lit from 6 a.m. to noon. Then Steadicam came in, my Steadicam operator, Nick Sarabin. And then we just blocked it out with Artemis on my phone and walked through all the different shots for like 2 hours or something. And then he actually threw up the camera and we ran through all the shots just all in that first day. And we didn't shoot anything. And then the second day was just a whole shoot day. So we had like plenty of time to
light it out,
to light it, plan it, everything. And yeah, like the first cut is just like Tavier hitting the camera, kind of bumping it, and the camera kind of just goes like flying into this grip that's carrying like a 4x solid. And that wasn't the original idea. The original idea that Tavier wanted was he wanted the camera to be bumped, but he wanted it to just kind of like fall to the ground. But then I was like, okay, but we need like a wipe of some sort. We need something to like fill the frame, right? Because again, we're not doing VFX at all.
Yeah.
So that was my idea of like, okay, it can still get bumped, but like let's have it go into this like, you know, solid that's being carried. And that's like a really easy, super easy.
Way more practical.
Yeah. And then on set, our second AC was doubling as the DIT, which wasn't bad because I mean he was just like dumping footage. But I also had him when we knew that we liked, like for the second shot, when we knew that we thought we had it and we thought we liked it, we gave him the footage and he just opened up iMovie on someone's MacBook and actually like loaded the song in there and put the two clips and tried to see that if he could like get it to where the cut was, you know, hidden enough.
Mm.
And I really wanted that because we didn't really have any other like type of like support from like the editor or like anyone like to give us that reassurance. So like for my own, like so that I could sleep that night, I had him do that. And I'm so glad I did, because then we were like sure that we got it and that it was going to work.
On 1917, I think I heard that the director, after they would shoot the scene, he would he watched the take that he thought he liked, he would like go away, make sure that's the one he wanted, and then lock it so that they could use that to match to the next shot. You know, because it's seamless. So that sounds similar to what you guys did.
Yeah. And then a little bit about the lighting. You know, I said we have these maxi brutes and like these, you know, tungsten sources, but then we also have this really big book light situation that's blue, and that's just sky panels bouncing into an ultra bounce and then bouncing through diff. I can't remember what diff we used, but I know I thought I wanted half soft frost, but then they put it on there and it just looked like really bad on camera, and I was like, okay, like this isn't so much about getting the quality right, it's like we're seeing this pretty heavily like in the actual shot, so it needs to look good. I mean, it had like stains on it and everything, and I was like, we got to put something else on here. And then originally it wasn't supposed to be blue. Originally it was just going to be tungsten, and I was like, oh, it just kind of, it's looking, there's no like color contrast, it's looking kind of flat. So then I said, you know, well, they're sky panels, just give me some type of like blue, like gel setting. And then we picked one, and then, cause I saw his jersey, the jersey he's wearing is like yellow and blue. And I'm like, okay, let's lean into this like look. And then it also works really well because the end of the film, when he walks outside, it's like blue hour, you know, so it all kind of matches nicely. And that honestly like was not planned, but
it's crazy
it was,
because like, so this is what you're talking about, right? This is the bounce.
Yeah.
And so you get the color contrast and the maxi brute and the sky panel, and then you cut to here, and it's very similar.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy that you didn't plan that. And a cop rolls by, which has some color contrast because he has red. And breaks.
They loved that. When they saw that, they were like, that is the take that's going in the video.
That's probably all they saw. They're like, our performance sucked, we didn't notice, but there's a cop, and it's production value because we didn't pay for that cop.
Exactly, yeah.
That's funny.
I just find it so funny too, like just like more about like the concept of the video, like that, you know, he's kind of this artist that's trying to be all like hip and cool, and then he just like, you know, gets into a Prius at the end. Like I find that so, he's like kind of putting on this persona, you know, like during the whole video, like he's a big shot, and then at the end it's just in a Prius.
Yeah, so LA.
Yeah.
I love my Prius. So here's what.
Yeah, so this is just, I mean, this was an overhead for the first shot, which was so simple because it was just the fisheye lens kind of pointed at him and he's rapping to the camera. But then I had to like, I would write out like all these notes of like, you know, how we would do, how the lighting was going to be, you know, it was going to be high key, kind of like fashion lighting, you know, the cyc had to be lit. And then, you know, down to like, oh, people like crossing frame, you know, because again, like the director, it was all his vision and he wanted it. He had the whole concept, you know, the one shot, but it was up to me to fill in like all the details, you know. So I even acted as like an AD, you know, directing the, you know, people crossing, you know, okay, you need to cross with like, you know, the clothing rack, you know, and then timing it out, you know, and just trying to like also like place equipment to be props because you see, you know, you see the whole set and like what would look cool, right? So like behind him, when we see Tavia like sitting in that director's chair, at the start of the second shot, I have like ladders just like behind him because it was super dark back there. And I was like, okay, well, what can we? So I'm like, I was designing the set, I was doing all these things, which was really, really cool to have like that much creative like input.
That's great that you like to do that kind of thing, because there's some DPs that are like, no, I just want to focus on my job. Like, this is bullshit. Why am I doing all this?
Yeah. I
Actually,
mean,
loved it.
I liked it because we had the time. If we didn't have the time, then I probably would have had I probably would have had that attitude.
Well, that's cool. You're using a shot designer again. I love it. I've been a fan of shot designer before the program came out. It used to, I don't know if you remember, but they have these videos, these like animation videos, where they teach you like from the basics of a shot, like what's a close up, to like how you block a scene, like from a script. And it's just hours and hours of video of these animations. Did you ever see those?
I think so. That was like pretty early on though, right?
Yeah, that was back in the day.
Yeah.
But then they made this app, and now this is what everyone uses. Those videos are actually really good. It taught me a lot about blocking with the camera.
Yeah. Oh,
But
and then another thing on this is I was riding the iris. So I had an iris motor where I was controlling. So that also made it really easy because there were like just certain situations where well, at the end, I know it started to get dark really quickly and we were like still shooting and trying to get the shot. So I actually had to open up
when you went outside,
when we went outside. Yeah.
well, let me see. Yeah, I mean I was talking a little bit about iris control before, but that's another great thing. There's a lot of moments where you want to do a subtle iris rack, even like a half a stop. So
Yeah.
going up right here. Oh yeah, you can't see, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't
no,
have.
you can't. Yeah, you can't see, you can't notice any of the pulls. And there were also, I don't know if I remember like specific instances, but I know there were spots where I would just kind of open up or close down a half a stop to a stop just because we couldn't get like, the lighting to be perfect, like how at each exposure of where he was. I think when he goes through the door into that like makeup room area, that was another moment where I had to adjust it. Because when he went through the door, I had to open up here
Mm,
because we kind of lost some light and it went a little dark, which isn't a bad thing either. Like the whole thing doesn't need to be, super lit at all times. I mean, it is like behind the scenes of an actual set. So
yeah, and it probably masks the transitions too by going to all these different locations and the lights, and so it's okay if you see it adjust, you probably wouldn't even notice that it was the iris.
hmm
Cool.
And I think we just have a couple like behind the scenes photos um in here somewhere.
Oh yeah, these. Oh no,
Oh no, keep going. These are just like stills.
after this, yeah. Oh, the video.
Oh yeah, go ahead and play this. So this is the second shot coming out of like the 4x floppy.
Is that your monitor?
Yeah. Yeah, literally it was me and my gaffer at the monitor like the whole time, sitting in director's chairs. So yeah, there's just like a ton of like coordination that was like happening with people moving around in the background. You can see I'm like holding the iris control there. Um,
Oh yeah.
So yeah, these are pictures of the stage like before they even hung any of the keynotes. We just had 4-foot-4 banks lighting the cyc. We had a ton of them. I think it was like 15 or 15 to 20.
Wow.
And then we had like 2 like space lights that were right above him. You can kind of see there that just kind of give like some ambient like top light because that area kind of fell off a little bit. I mean, we had like the Hudson Spider, which was keying him for the first performance of where he's performing to camera. But then especially when the camera kind of wraps around the 2 characters, it got a little dark in that area. So that's why we had those.
There it is.
Yeah, so there's the Hudson Spider. So I had never used that light before, and my gaffer like really wanted, we had a really good budget on this, so he was like, let's get it. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, it'd be cool if we could get like a interesting like reflection like in his glasses. And it kind of like comes across in the video. In hindsight, we actually probably needed like 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 of those lights to really like get the cool reflection because one just like wasn't enough. But yeah, that's why we went with that light because it kind of has that, it does have a cool reflection with those like spidery legs.
Well, also you're shooting like a fisheye, right? So it's like so small.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I actually haven't used that light. I'm a fan of light gear, and I know I think they use their light in it, and but I haven't used it yet. My go-to thing is kind of like probably what you do is just get a sky panel and bounce it because you have so much control and it's so quick that anything else just is kind of wasting time. Even though you can, like I said earlier, you can get the same look with a million different ways, but it's just so convenient when you don't have enough time.
Yeah. And then we also, it might have been hard to see like in the video on here, but there were actually like flash photography things, like flashes in the beginning, in the very start of the video. And we just had like flash photography lights that we rented from Quixote because we were at the Quixote stages in West Hollywood.
Where is it in the beginning?
Yeah, right in the beginning. There,
Nice. Yeah.
And there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. And what camera was this?
This was my Alexa Classic with Arri Master Primes. We ended up only using one. It was the 25 millimeter for the 2 shots. Then obviously the fisheye lens. I had the 32 and the 40 as well, just because I didn't know exactly which one we were going to use. And I just found that out kind of on the rehearsal day.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to beat the color of an old school tungsten light.
Yeah. I think my favorite part of this project is what just like everyone at monitor, like after we would do the takes, like everyone would just like crowd the monitor and like, everyone from like the background extras that were in it, and it was cool because they could see like if the timing was off, and then Tavia would just say, oh yeah, see, like you're too late there or whatever, and they like already knew. They were like, oh yeah, I got it, I know I need to come in at this other time. So if you keep going, there's like this really cool, so there, like we're all at monitor, and then I just like, this is super cool. Like everyone, it was such like a collaborative experience. Like I've never been on like a set before that was like this,
Right.
And it's just interesting that it was like a music video and everyone was just like so on point and like dialed in. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's always nice.
Matt says Alexa Classic for the win. Yes. Yes, I've had my classic for 4 years now, and it's
Yeah,
heavy, but I love it. He was like, "Are you both at points of your career where you're like turning down scripts, I think, if it doesn't feel right or you don't want to do it or whatever?"
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have. I think it's for me, it's definitely like the script. If it's not a story, I don't do a lot of comedy. So if I get a comedy script, I'm probably am not going to do it. I mean, unless they're trying to do like a really cool like Wes Anderson like type of visual style. But if it's kind of just like a Modern Family, like I mean, I love Modern Family, but it's just not my like lighting style or my shooting style that I like. And I'm like thankfully like involved in other projects to where I'm busy doing, the ones like thrillers and dramas that I like to do. Um, and it's not it's the script, but it's also like budget too. Like, if someone
big
comes to me with
time.
a short film and they're like, we've got like 2 grand to make this 15-minute short film, I'm like, I can't make that look good. I can't make that happen. So that's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't tend to get random or like new directors hitting me up. It's normally relationships I've had before. So if I'm getting a script from them, I probably like their work or the work that they do 9 times out of 10. So I'm probably not going to turn down their script. Um, but yeah, normally it would be normally if it was for like someone I didn't know, like a new director, it would be what you're talking about, like not enough time, not enough money, and then it's
Hmm.
like you're compromising too much. There's like a fine line between what you can actually make happen and what you can't. um,
Yeah.
so I think that'll change eventually. Like maybe I'll start getting more random. Like maybe it will be enough time and enough budget, but I just don't like the script. But I'm not in that stage yet where I'm not picky. I'm just trying to get
Yeah.
experience and work with people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't want to be super picky either. It's really just, yeah, it's more of a budget thing where I can see if they're trying to be too ambitious, if they say, "Oh, it's going to be you and like, a first AC and like a gaffer, but like it needs to look like, like a movie, like so good," then it's like, and we don't have the time, then yeah, I'm not gonna put myself through that because I know it's gonna be too stressful.
Yeah, sure. All right, let's look at I think this is your last project you wanted to show.
Yeah, so this is a short, Life on a Tropical Island. It's a psychological thriller about this girl who's obsessing over like the latest like beauty trends. And so she uh, is like contemplating getting like plastic surgery. But a lot of it is like playing out like in her head, and like you're not really sure what's real and like what's not. And to kind of like convey that, we use like a lot of different colors. So like this is just a scene where this is actually real. This is happening where she's in this like facility, and we used a lot of lavender gel, and it looks pretty cool. So I wanted
Yeah,
to show it.
there's some cool color in this.
Oh, and there's no sound on this.
Oh, okay. Cool. So you can talk through it if you want.
Yeah. So um, we didn't have a very big lighting package for this, but we had a 4 foot Kino closest to camera, and that is it had lavender gel on it. So that's what's kind of um, not really keying them, because the keying is kind of coming from like the right side of frame there, and that's more neutral color. But yeah, the 4 foot four bank is giving that kind of kiss of purple and like
Mm.
fill, if and then what's keying them is actually a Joker that's diffused kind of high up. Um,
Yeah, and you kind of like motivated it from this practical fluorescent light.
yeah, yeah, we kind of motivated from that hallway that's kind of lit there. You could also say there's kind of like maybe overhead lighting that's like that you're not seeing. You could also kind of play it off as that.
Yeah.
It's like inside the room.
Well, as soon as I saw this, it just felt like that. Like I don't feel like there's any other lights besides that and what you were saying, the overheads.
Yeah. And that's actually
Oops.
a real, like just a practical light that was at the location. Like that's not a quasar or anything.
Oh, cool. Yeah, quasars are great. I don't have tons of experience using them yet. I have a kit in a rental house. I've used them for a couple things, but I've seen them. I've been shadowing on a show in New York, Prodigal Son. They use it like they'll quickly just take it and drill it into the wall or ceiling, like, and within like 3 minutes they're lit. It's insane how it's changed the industry.
Wow. Yeah, it's great. You can just like kind of put them anywhere.
Hold on, sorry. Okay. Yeah, and they're powerful.
Yeah. And then for this overhead shot, this is just like an inverted Dana dolly setup to get this, which I use a lot to get those. I mean, unless we have a like Chapman or JL Fisher dolly to where we can use like the arm and do it that way. But yeah, mostly doing like a Dana dolly.
So there was movement?
No movement, just locked off. But that's how we inverted the Dana dolly, and then we have like the head, like hanging upside down.
Yeah.
And you have to have like a 6-inch riser, and then you just tilt the camera like back all the way, and you can get that.
Yeah, that's cool. I've thought about, so basically what I was talking about with the putting a gimbal on the Dana dolly and using it as a remote head, you could do something like that, where it's actually like dolling and you're like tilting up or something. I don't know. You could do some cool stuff with not a lot of gear.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of gear, but cheap, like relatively affordable gear.
Mm-hmm. And then this, we had a second Joker that was like hitting the table. It's kind of like almost like a spotlight kind of like on it, like breaking across. And then that practical lamp that's there by her head, that also had the same lavender gel on it. And that's just a regular like tungsten light bulb in there.
It matches really well.
Mm-hmm.
So the Kino was tungsten too?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like the tone. It's just like, it's not too vibrant.
Yeah, it's hard, right? Because when you incorporate that much color, especially with like gels, you gotta be careful like with the skin tones. But with this project, I wasn't trying to like preserve the skin tones as much. Like I was kind of like I didn't want to have like the color clip, obviously, but I wasn't like so concerned with that. Like if I want color, like and I really want to like push it, like I want to be able to see it a lot. I know like a lot of DPs like trying to, add white light in there, to kind of like balance it out. But I kind of also got away with it because it's kind of only just from that one side, with that like that purple tone, and then the other side is more natural and neutral.
Yeah, I think that's what works so well with this, because I'm a believer of that too. Like I hate using colored light on people's faces, but because you use this white, it's a very nice, this is a good example right here. It's like daylight that kind of fades into this purpley color in the shadows, so it's almost like the shadows are colored and the highlights aren't. So I think that's why it looks so nice. But yeah, and then this like turquoise in the corner complements it. It's just subtle.
Yeah, Yeah, it was cool. And then we filmed in that same room and we did like red. And there's like, I think there's some stills in here,
Yeah,
actually.
I'll go to those.
And that was just gel again, just red gel. But we didn't have any sky panels or any type of units that could give us those colors. So we had to gel everything.
Nice. Yeah, this looks great. I like the center punch. And what gear did you use for this camera gear?
This was a mini with ultra primes.
That's my setup.
Yeah. Do you still own those?
Yeah, yeah. I can't get rid of gear I buy. It's just too hard because you lose so much money. I mean, lenses hold their value, but I love them. I mean, they're good for everything.
Yeah.
I wish I had some more focal lengths, like a 24 and a 28, but they're like over 10 grand each. So I don't know if it's worth it, but yeah, they're great because you can use them for commercials and they're sharp, or you can soften them up. And I got the Mini LF as well. I haven't used it yet, but it's in a rental house at Kesla.
Oh yeah. I haven't even had the opportunity to shoot anything with that yet.
Have you
Yeah.
done large format yet? Or
No. No, I haven't. It's always a budget thing. It's like
yeah,
they can't afford it, so we have to just use the mini.
yeah. I mean, even my own projects, not just because the camera, because it's mine, but I would have to rent lenses. You can use ultra primes, but you can't use like the super wide ones, and I don't know. So you'd have to rent large format lenses.
Mm.
Mm. But it'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, if you want to wrap it up, if you want to add anything, I don't know, anything we missed, we kind of covered a lot.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I just wanted to hop back on here and do like an official wrap up. Um, but I'm trying to think if I have anything else that I want to say. I don't know.
You probably don't because everything shut down, but do you have any upcoming projects or something in the works?
I don't really have anything in the works. I was gonna do another like athletic like branded shoot with the EP of Rolling with the Rookies because we did one literally right before the quarantine started, like in the second week of March, the Florida shoot that I was talking about. We had another one scheduled in Philly in April, and then that got canceled. Well, it got pushed to shoot it, but that was going to be with like one of the U.S. women's soccer players, which would have been really cool.
Yeah.
But no, I just have I've got that short that's still in color, so I'm still giving notes on that, and then I have the feature that I shot in November. That is ready for color right now. So I had some emails and some phone conversations with the director about that, but I don't know when we're going to actually like be able to get in the color suite or start that or what that process is going to look like. But yeah.
Yeah, you'll probably be wearing a mask.
Probably. I mean, I'd rather be in the suite with the colorist, like wearing a mask, than in my apartment watching it and typing out notes.
Yeah, it's true. It's just more accurate. I mean, I'm in the same boat with a short that I shot years ago, but they're taking this time now to do a lot of pre-production with the coloring, like, you know, doing looks and doing all these things, and so that by the time we go to the colorist, they know what to do. But it's kind of hard to do without actually manipulating the real footage.
Yeah.
But it's a good starting off point for sure.
Yeah.
But cool. Well, thanks for your time. And
Yeah, thank you.
good luck with everything. And yeah, keep me posted with any upcoming projects.
Okay. Yeah, you do the same.
I will.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.